Hey everyone, per your requests, I'm starting Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San, chapters 1041 through 1060 of the previous episode. In a bid to control the planet's fortune, the Ancestral Court and the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor orchestrate a marriage tournament, the battle for the throne, intended to force Mei Gongzi to renounce her human identity and marry a demon. Tang San, however, thwarts their control. He skillfully maneuvers through the auction, winning powerful divine items like the Shadow Fiend sword and the Black Tortoise shield, while secretly using his divinity as the sea god to heal his allies and forge alliances with the sea clans. As the tournament progresses, Tang San's disguised persona as Jean Miaolan, the leader of the Blue Gold Tree clan, continues to defy expectations, using intelligence and strategic use of resources to secure his path to the finals. His victories reveal a man far beyond the perceived weakness of his clan, drawing admiration even from his rivals. By the end of the semifinals, Tang San and Mei Gongzi have secured their places as the tournament's primary contenders, setting the stage for a final confrontation that will determine not just the title of emperor, but the future of humanity's existence on the demon continent. Thank you. Now let's get back to the story of Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San audio series. Chapter 1061. On the female side, the audience was not disappointed. In the later rounds, Mei Gongzi continued to showcase overwhelming strength. Despite their best efforts, her opponents couldn't withstand her power, and that was without her using the Azura sword again. In fact, two female contestants even chose to forfeit their matches to avoid injury. Thus, Mei Gongzi finished the round-robin stage and advanced to the finals with a flawless 8-win record, the highest score not just among the female contestants, but in the entire tournament. Tang San's hunch turned out to be correct. The fiercest contest among the male contestants was the match between Jin Ongwa and Ning Chanen. The two fought with everything they had, even resorting to blue gold fruits. In the end, Ning Chanen narrowly claimed victory with his superior defense. Whether this close battle might strain the relationship between the Golden Mammoth and Behemoth clans remained to be seen. Fortunately for the Behemoth side, Lan Maqian managed to advance among the female contestants. In the end, the three female finalists were Mei Gongzi, Zhang Chanqiu, and Lan Maqian in that order. Mei Gongzi had the highest win count, followed by Zhang Chanqiu and then Lan Maqian. When Zhang Chanqiu and Lan Maqian faced off, even with her twin divine swords, Lan Maqian was unable to break through the undying golden body and lost. This battle highlighted just how decisive the divine item was. It also highlighted something not even the undying demon emperor had discovered. A blue gold fruit could replenish the life essence it consumed, allowing the same person to use it more than once without suffering fatal aftereffects. 1. On the male side, the finalists were Jean Miaolan, Su Enyu, and Ning Chanen. After the round-robin concluded, the competition entered a 3-day rest period, after which the final stage of the battle for the throne would begin. The final victor would not only claim the emperor's seat but also quite possibly a spouse. After all, this was a matchmaking tournament to begin with. According to the double elimination rules, the matchups were: the three winners would enter the winner's bracket, and the losers would fall into the losers' bracket. In the winner's bracket, the two contestants with the lowest round-robin scores would first face off. The loser would drop to the losers' bracket, while the winner would challenge the top-seeded winner for a chance at the finals. In the losers' bracket, the two lower-ranked contestants would also face off first, but the loser would be eliminated immediately. The winner would face the next lowest-ranked loser, and the process would continue until one remained to challenge the last loser from the winner's bracket. At this stage, high round-robin scores became extremely valuable. For instance, Mei Gongzi, with the highest score, would only need to win the match against Ning Chanen to guarantee a top 3 placement. Everyone else needed at least 2 wins to ensure the same result. Many spectators questioned why Tang San didn't continue his matches to fight for the highest score overall. He had 2 default wins available. If he had completed all matches, he could have easily taken the number 1 seed. However, many others thought Tang San had made the right choice, minimizing exposure, conserving power for the final rounds. With his current score, just 1 victory in the finals would likely put him into the top 3. At the very least, he would have 2 chances before elimination. As the finals approached, tension rose across the Ancestral Court. The external betting houses run by demons and nymphs were in chaos. Many now realized. If anyone had bet big on Jean Miaolin back when the odds first opened and he ended up claiming the emperor's seat, they'd make an outrageous fortune. And as it turned out, there were such bets placed, of course, by the Blue Gold Tree clan. When Jean Miaolin first made waves at the auction, many of the spectators had laughed at him, dismissing him as nothing more than a rich fool. Now, all that scorn had turned to admiration. Everything had changed. Tang San didn't pay attention to such things. In truth, his 3-day break was anything but a break. With the 3 forfeited matches added in, he had 6 full days of preparation, and he made sure to use every moment appropriately. During this time, not even the elders of the Blue Gold Tree clan saw him. He remained secluded in his room, officially in closed-door cultivation. This left many powerhouses from other clans, those eager to build relationships, standing at a closed door. But it was understandable. What could be more important than the battle for the throne? This was a fight for the very seat of an emperor. As for what exactly Tang San was doing during this time, only he knew. The 6 finalists were all quietly preparing for war. In a double elimination format, the first match was absolutely critical. Even for Mei Gongzi, a loss in the first round would make becoming the absolute champion incredibly difficult. But if she won her first match, she could potentially become champion in just 3 rounds. Unlike the previous phases, everyone now knew who their opponent would be in the first round. It was Tang San against Lan Maqian, Mei Gongzi against Ning Chenen, and Suan Yu versus Zhang Chanchou. In essence, Tang San and Mei Gongzi were facing the husband and wife duo of Lan Maqian and Ning Chenen. It was a rather funny matchup, though only Tang San was aware of how funny it actually was. Tang San would face Lan Maqian, who wielded 2 divine heavy swords. Mei Gongzi would face Ning Chenen, who was perhaps the tournament's strongest defensive contestant. Though he didn't have the undying golden body, his own defenses were nothing to scoff at even at the emperor level. For those of lesser cultivation, he might as well have been an adamant mountain. With the tournament this close to crowning some future emperors, every race would now fight with everything they had. During this time, while Tang San was in seclusion, Mei Gongzi was far from at ease, because Tang San had vanished. She had gritted her teeth and fought through fierce battles, relying heavily on the Azura sword's power. Without it, it would have been impossible for her to defeat her strongest opponents one after the other. But even after scoring the highest points and advancing to the finals, Tang San still hadn't appeared. Only 3 male contestants had qualified: Jean Miaolin, Suan Yu, and Ning Chenen. But none of them seemed to be Tang San. Jean Miaolin was lord of Skytree City, heir to the ancestral tree, and the center of attention lately. His fighting style was utterly bizarre, and he always leered at her. Suan Yu didn't even factor in this equation. He was the Radiant Dragon King. Despite his youthful appearance, he was over a century old and a widely acknowledged leader of the dragon race. Finally, Ning Chenen and Lan Maqian were husband and wife. While his incredible toughness had once made Mei Gongzi suspicious, especially since she was aware that Tang San had the same bloodlines, seeing the 2 together erased all doubt. So where was Tang San? He had clearly promised her. After the matchmaking tournament, he would openly marry her. Yet now there was no sign of him at all. She trusted his strength. At the start of the tournament, her biggest fear had not been that he would lose, but that he would expose himself and draw attacks from the emperors. But now, with the tournament this far in and still no sign of him, Mei Gongzi's heart was full of anxiety. What is he doing? Why haven't I seen a single trace of him? She had even secretly tried to contact him through the sword intent of the Azura sword, but this time there was no response. It was as if Tang San had completely vanished from the world. This only caused Mei Gongzi's anxiety to deepen. Yet she also understood that, at a time as one of the 6 finalists, she was under the spotlight. Any suspicious move could easily be noticed by the emperors. Thus, she could only force herself to suppress her inner unease and focus on preparing for the match. After all, if she won the championship in the end, this whole matchmaking tournament wouldn't really matter anymore. For now she had to clear her mind. Maybe he would show up when the time came, as he always did. She had to believe in him. He had never once let her down. Mei Gongzi did her best to convince herself. He had been with her through thick and thin. He had sworn a blood oath twice just to earn her trust. He had helped her cultivate to where she was now. He had even given her the incredibly powerful divine item that had brought her 2 victories against the behemoth and scorching sunflower princesses. What reason had he ever given her not to trust him? But soon her emotions became unsettled again. What if he was in danger? What if something had happened during the matches? Quite a few contestants had died during the elimination rounds. With that thought in mind, Mei Gongzi hurriedly had the Phoenix race compile a list of the contestants that had perished in the previous rounds. Yet after studying the names and races carefully, none of them resembled Tang San. Then she gradually calmed down. With Tang San's ability, he could at least protect himself even against an emperor, so how could he have been killed by a random great demon king? No, that was simply not possible. He had to be working on something in secret. It wasn't until a day before the finals that Mei Gongzi finally managed to fully settle her heart, adjusting her condition through meditation to prepare for the final battle. All those who had made it into the finals were the absolute cream of the crop, regardless of their ranking. Defeating them would not be easy. Speculations about the outcome of the finals were now flying everywhere. The other 5 contestants were all solid and well known. It wasn't hard to guess their chances. According to most predictions, Mei Gongzi, Su Enyu, and Jiang Chunzhou were considered the top 3 favorites. Assuming that one particular variable didn't become an issue. That variable, of course, was the Amethystan warrior. If he was allowed to use the Scourge Dragon gene, Miaolin would undoubtedly become a frontrunner for the Emperor's seat. But if he couldn't use the Scourge Dragon, then what else could he rely on? The holy energy he had just revealed was certainly powerful, and it could compete against any first-tier bloodline power. But could he ever use it proficiently in battle? He was a blue gold tree after all. And other than holy energy and life energy, what else could he even wield? The substitute lotus seed? Could only be used once, and against a truly powerful foe it wouldn't make much difference. If they could kill you once, they could kill you a second time. The dark turtle shield? It was incredibly heavy, and it could only be planted on the ground for defense. This was how he had used it when facing the world-sundering sword. Then there was the holy dragon spear. Without a doubt, it was a powerful divine item, and had it been in Su Enyu's hands, it would have most certainly put up a stellar performance. But could Jean Miaolin actually use it properly? Did he even know how to wield a spear? Thus, in all the predictions, Jean Miaolin remained a giant question mark. But the audience was eager to see what other bizarre tactics he might unleash in the finals to fight for the emperor's seat. Amidst all this anticipation, the finals of the battle for the throne were finally upon them. Early that morning, Jean Miaosin was already waiting outside Tang San's room. She hadn't seen her brother for 6 whole days, and no one knew what he had been doing during his seclusion. Now the finals were about to begin, and yet he still hadn't emerged. He hadn't even accepted any meals during those days. No one dared to disturb him. Back when the tournament started, no one had pinned their hopes on him. But now that he had truly made it to the final 6, the elders of the Blue Gold Tree clan couldn't help but feel a sense of apprehension, because they understood clearly. If Tang San really became an emperor, the benefits to the Blue Gold Tree clan would be immeasurable. No one knew what card their clan leader might play in the finals. After all the seemingly impossible things he had done, they all truly believed in him. But all his opponents were equally incredible, and they all represented the hopes of their own clans and races, so could he truly pull it off? Time was running out. Jean Miaosin raised her hand to knock on the door several times but ultimately refrained. Finally the door opened and Tang San showed up. Today, he had changed into a white ceremonial outfit, a traditional formal garment long prepared by the Blue Gold Tree elders. With his straight posture, blue skin, and the 8 spines on his back, he appeared truly dazzling in Jean Miaosin's eyes. "Big brother, you look amazing today." Jean Miaosin sincerely praised him. Tang San chuckled to himself. "That's according to Blue Gold Tree standards, right? You must have been getting anxious. Don't worry, I'm ready. Let's go." "All right." Jean Miaosin broke into an excited grin. "The finals, here we come." The mood within the entire ancestral court had shifted due to the battle. There was a new sense of solemnity, but also a mounting fervor. When Tang San exited the hotel, he saw that a large detachment of the ancestral court's guards was already waiting around his carriage to clear the way for him. The streets were packed with onlookers. As soon as he stepped out, Surrounded by the elders of the Blue Gold Tree clan, cheers erupted from both sides of the street. Tang San smiled slightly and waved to the demons and nymphs cheering for him before boarding the carriage. These were citizens who couldn't get tickets and would instead watch the match through the crystal screens outside the arena. Most of Tang San's supporters were ordinary people with limited talent. From him they saw hope. Even those not born strong could work hard, earn money, and rise up to rival the elite. He inspired them to believe. As the carriage slowly moved forward, Tang San turned to Jean Miaosan and asked, "Has the Peacock Demon Clan's convoy already left?" Jean Miaosan replied, "They have. Since you came out late, we'll probably be the last ones to arrive." Tang San nodded with a faint smile. Jean Miaosan continued, "Big brother, your opponent today is Lan Maqian. Are you ready? She's not easy to deal with. She might be ranked third among the girls, but she's incredibly strong. How do you plan to handle her? You know what they say, build a dam to block a flood and send an elephant to fight the lions," Tang San replied with a smile. Jean Miaosan rolled her eyes. "What's that supposed to mean?" That's so unfair. You always brush me off. I'm your own sister, can't you give me a hint?" Tang San said. "You'll find out once I get on the platform." Jean Miaosan pouted, but then she asked meekly, "Big brother, do you really think you can win?" Tang San looked at her with amusement. "Would you rather I say yes or no?" Jean Miaosan opened her mouth but couldn't answer. Truly, even if he said he was confident, she still wouldn't feel reassured. "Forget it. Just rest a bit and make sure you're ready for the match," she said. "No worries. I won't be in the first match. Based on the rankings, I should be second to go up," Tang San said. Since Mei Gongzi had a flawless string of victories and he didn't, she would be the first one to fight, and her opponent would be Ning Chenen. The latter was no pushover, and overall the male contestants were stronger than the female ones. But if Mei Gongzi could defeat him, then Tang San could take care of the rest. In other words, this battle was the most important in Tang San's mind. For Ning Chenen to defeat Jin Ongua, he had relied on true power. He had inherited the two most powerful defensive bloodlines in this world. Even though Tang San's golden armor transformation granted him a rather tough skin, so to say, his physique was actually a little inferior to Ning Chenen's in terms of pure defense. The fact that Ning Chenen's bloodlines mixed to form something only a hair's breadth away from a transcendent bloodline spoke volumes about his potential. Su and Yu had been able to defeat Ning Chenen in their match partly because Ning Chenen had not been quite into it, and partly due to the overwhelming energy advantage brought by the light sprite. Ning Chenen specialized in attrition battles, but with the light sprite at his side, Su and Yu could hardly be less afraid of such tactics. Meanwhile, what Mei Gongzi feared most at present was an attrition battle. If she were to fall into the loser's bracket, things would become very troublesome for her. It would make the path forward far more difficult. Thus, today's match was crucial. Under the escort of the Ancestral Court's royal guards, Tang San's carriage once again entered the competition grounds. As soon as his carriage arrived, the arena erupted into a wave of cheers. "Amethystin warrior! Amethystin warrior!" The cries of support came in wave after wave. In terms of popularity, Tang San was clearly in first place. He stepped down from the carriage and walked into the arena through the corridor. The city lord's rest area had been dismantled, and the dozen pavilions had been replaced by 6 smaller ones. They were no longer fully enclosed either. The side facing the battle platform was open. Each pavilion contained only a single seat, a luxurious throne carved from a golden metal and encrusted with all kinds of gemstones. Each of the thrones was placed a little higher than the next one, obviously showing the rankings of the contestants. This was the honor reserved for the finalists. At this moment, aside from Jean Miaolin's, all other thrones were already occupied. Mei Gongzi sat proudly on the first throne. Upon seeing Tang San arrive, she nodded slightly at him. The other contestants also nodded in acknowledgement. With a calm smile, Tang San returned each greeting and took his seat on the second throne, right beside Mei Gongzi's. On his other side sat Su and Yu. Further down were Jiang Chanshou, followed by Ning Chenen and Lan Maqian. The married couple occupied the 5th and 6th seats respectively, and as if to showcase who the boss of the house was, Lan Maqian sat ahead of Ning Chenen. All 6 thrones were now occupied. To get the right to sit here was the result of countless grueling battles, and a testament to their brilliance. Seeing all 6 finalists seated, the spectators in the arena erupted into cheers again. The powerful sound waves seemed to ignite the very atmosphere above the ancestral court. The Emperor's pavilions halfway up Council Mountain remained unchanged. Just then, beams of light descended from the sky, each landing in front of one pavilion. Only then did the cheers in the arena gradually subside. The matches were about to begin. One by one, the doors of the Emperor's rooms opened, and figures stepped out. This time it was not just 1 or 2. Every single emperor alive was present. A total of 14 emperors walked side by side to the edge of the platform upon which their pavilions were built. The celestial fox demon emperor turned toward the sunborn nymph emperor, who made a courteous gesture, inviting him to speak first. Only then did the celestial fox demon emperor face the arena. Instantly, an invisible aura swept across the space. It held no pressure to speak of, but it caused the entire crowd to quiet down instinctively. The 6 finalists all rose to their feet and bowed respectfully toward the emperor standing on the mountainside. A smile spread across the celestial fox demon emperor's face. To the 6 finalists of the battle for the throne, and to all the spectators present, I bid you welcome. Today is a day of extraordinary importance to the ancestral court. As everyone knows, the ancestral court has not added a new emperor in many years. This is because the plane can only sustain a limited number of top-tier beings. But not long ago, we mournfully witnessed the passing of Her Majesty the Crystal Demon Emperor and Its Majesty the Adamant Nymph Emperor, causing the ancestral court to lose 2 of its own. Their fall left behind 3 vacant seats. Thus, the battle for the throne was decided, a rare and long-awaited opportunity to ascend for the great demon kings of every race. By the end of this tournament, 3 individuals will emerge victorious and gain the right to claim an emperor's seat. In the near future, they will join our ranks and help protect the ancestral court, the demon continent, and both demons and nymphs. He paused, turning his gaze to the 6 competitors below. After days of matches and grueling elimination rounds, the 6 of you have made it to the finals. The final stage will follow a double elimination format. The top 3 finishers will be granted the right to claim an emperor's seat, and in due time ascend to emperorhood. Now everyone, allow me to introduce these 6 contestants, in order by number of victories. First, Mei Gongzi, Lord of Kali City, leader of the Peacock Demon clan. Apart from the Peacock Demon blood, she possesses White Tiger and human blood as well. She is the strongest of the Peacock Demon clan in many years, and ranks first among the 6. Immediately, the crowd erupted into thunderous cheers like crashing waves. As the overall top scorer, she was seen as a frontrunner to claim one of the 3 positions. Mei Gongzi first gave a deep bow toward Council Mountain, then turned to the audience and nodded in acknowledgement. Second, Jean Miarolin, Lord of Skytree City, leader of the Blue Gold Tree clan. He bears the original bloodline of the ancestral tree and possesses massive life energy. He also possesses a massive stock of amethystin coins, for which reason he is also known these days as the Amethystin Warrior. Upon hearing the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's introduction, the entire arena exploded in deafening cheers and chants, along with uproarious laughter. Even the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor knew the title of Amethystin Warrior, and he actually said it aloud. Though there was undoubtedly a hint of jest in his words, it clearly showed that the emperors acknowledged Tang San. With a smile, he bowed to the emperors and then turned to wave merrily at the audience. Instantly, the cheering grew even louder. The raucous ovation continued for a good minute before gradually quieting at the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's raised hand. Mei Gongzi couldn't help glancing toward him with a raised eyebrow. This blue-skinned guy had really gathered some popularity. Sensing her gaze, Tang San turned and smiled at her with a nod. Mei Gongzi nodded back as well, but the sense of distance between them remained unchanged. Tang San sighed inwardly. Once she finds out who I really am, I hope she won't get too angry. Nah, she probably will. I'd better prepare some gifts. Third, Suan Yu, acting Lord of Crystal City and leader of the Radiant Dragon clan. He is a pure-blooded Radiant Dragon, and the most powerful Great Demon King of the dragon race. The crowd cheered once more, though noticeably less enthusiastically than for Tang San. Suan Yu, however, maintained a calm smile and respectfully saluted both the emperors and the audience. Fourth, Jiang Chanshou, princess of the Scorching Sunflower clan from Solar City. There was even less fanfare in Jiang Chuncho's introduction, likely because she wasn't even an acting city lord or clan leader, let alone a confirmed one. 5th, Lan Maqian, princess of the Behemoth clan from Sky-Splitting City. 6th, Ning Chanen, lord of Golden City and leader of the Golden Mammoth clan. He is renowned for having the most powerful defense below the emperor level. With all 6 introductions complete, the cheers clearly reflected the disparity in popularity. Tang San, without question, received the loudest ovation, more than the other 5 combined, especially when the crowd chanted Amethystin Warrior. Next came Mei Gongzi. As the top scorer and the central figure of the matchmaking tournament, she too commanded immense popularity, and this was without even revealing her stunning appearance. If she had, her popularity would surely have soared even higher. Su Anyu's cheers put him 3rd among the 6. As the leader of the dragon race, the most powerful race overall, his prestige was naturally immense, especially with the Tenebrous Dragon King withdrawing from this tournament. If he could claim an emperor's seat, then he would receive the full endorsement of all Dragon Clan leaders, and becoming the Lord of Crystal City would be a matter of course. His renown would surely reach a whole new level. Aside from him, the other 3 finalists had notably lower popularity. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor scanned the arena. I won't repeat the rules of the double elimination tournament. Simply put, anyone who loses twice will be eliminated. The top 3 will earn the right to claim an emperor's seat. However, the ascension will be done in order of tournament ranking. If a higher ranked seed gathers too much fortune when they ascend, it may affect those ranked lower. The ancestral court will not be responsible for such outcomes. This statement was concise, but instantly caused a subtle tension to ripple among the 6 contestants. In other words, even if one secured a spot among the top 3, they might not necessarily ascend to emperor. For example, if the first place finisher turned out to be someone like the Crystal Demon Emperor, they could monopolize the fortune required for 2 seats, making it impossible for the 3rd place holder to ascend despite earning a seat. Thus, even though all top 3 finishers would gain the right to claim an emperor's seat, that was just the right to claim it, and not the seat itself. It was clear that the higher the placement, the better. It also meant greater prestige, and once they ascended, likely a higher standing among emperors as well. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's message was clear: fight with everything you have. Only unstoppable momentum would bring opportunity, and the chance for greater resources. The first match will feature Mei Gongzi, who ranks 1st in total points, against Ning Chanen, 3rd among male contestants. For each match in the finals, 2 emperors will act as judges. Contestants, come to the platform. As his announcement echoed through the arena, the other emperors returned to their resting chambers. From the Empyrean Dominion, the Sword Saint Demon Emperor soared into the sky, and from the Solstice Empire, the Rainbow Glazed Nymph Emperor took flight. 1 Demon Emperor and 1 Nymph Emperor entered the battlefield as referees. This was the final battle, and it was no time for carelessness. The emperors of both empires naturally took these referee roles extremely seriously. Without question, every match moving forward would be supervised extremely strictly. Unlike in the elimination rounds, when it was practically a free-for-all, mishaps would not be allowed to happen at this stage. After all, anyone who had made it to the finals, be they nymph or demon, was undeniably a pillar of their race. It would be a massive loss for the continent as a whole if something untoward happened to them. Overall, demons still held deeper foundations. Among the 6 finalists, 3.5 were from the demon side. Why 3.5? Because technically Ning Chanen counted as a half. Of course, being raised by the Golden Mammoth clan put him on the Empyrean Dominion side, but who knew what the final outcome would be? Adamant City had no ruler right now. In overall strength, the Empyrean Dominion had the slight edge, though the results were still acceptable for the Solstice Empire. Of course, Tang San was the wild card. Without him, the male finalists would have likely included Jin Ongwa instead, and that would have tilted things far more heavily in favor of the Empyrean Dominion. Even the Sunborn Nymph Emperor had to admit that nymphs lagged behind demons in overall strength. After all, the demon races had long held dominance on the demon continent. Now Mei Gongzi and Ning Chanen both rose into the air and landed in the center of the battlefield. Double elimination wasn't as cruel as single elimination with a non-negligible possibility of instant death. But by this stage every contestant wanted to win, and they would give everything they had. The first match was crucial. Ning Chenen's expression was rarely this serious. He had watched Mei Gongxi's matches, and if he were to be honest, he hadn't expected to face her in the finals. Not because she was unlikely to make it, but because he was. In the Empyrean Dominion's original plan, male contestants were supposed to eliminate all nymphs. With competitors like Radiant Dragon King Suan Yu, the Tenebrous Dragon King Li Xiaopeng, and Behemoth King Jin Onggua, 3 demon finalists were anticipated among males, and they were also the most likely to win the overall tournament. Ning Chenen had only been considered a backup at best. No one had foreseen Tang San throwing a wrench into those plans. With the Scourge Dragon, he defeated Jin Onggua, and later forced Li Xiaopeng to withdraw. Only then did Ning Chenen gain the opportunity to qualify. But despite his friendly demeanor, Ning Chenen was proud to the core. With 2 first-tier bloodlines, he was confident in his strength, and naturally longed to reach the end of the tournament and prove himself. And prove himself he had. He had truly defeated Jin Onggua, his own brother-in-law, and reached the finals. Even Lan Maqian's attitude toward him had shifted after that. Before, Lan Maqian had been the dominant force in their home. She was the highest-ranking female member of the Behemoth clan, and her lineage stood higher than the Golden Mammoths. Though both clans had emperors supporting them, Lan Maqian's domineering personality meant she often acted as the head of the household. Their relationship was good, but Ning Chenen had always been a bit henpecked. Yet this time, after defeating Jin Onggua and making it to the finals, he hadn't received a scolding for beating his brother-in-law. Instead, Lan Maqian had greeted him with unprecedented passion. In the demon world, strength truly reigned supreme. So despite being the lowest ranked among the 6, the very fact that he had made it to the finals had already brought immense honor to the Golden Mammoth clan. Originally, predictions favored finalists from among the dragons and behemoths for the demon side. As for nymphs, bets were on the Scorching Sunflower and Netherman Flower participants. Yet in the end, dark horses emerged on both sides. 3 of the 6 weren't even from those top-tier clans. And chief among them stood Mei Gongxi, who was now facing another dark horse. Ning Chenen deeply feared her Azura sword, hence his heavy expression. Still, with his combat experience, he could see her weaknesses. If he could defeat this top-ranked peacock princess here, it would not only give him a major advantage in the battle for the throne, but vastly improve his chances of securing an emperor's seat, and boost his standing at home as well. Lan Maqian was set to face Tang San afterward. They had spent many days analyzing Tang San's situation. What tricks could the Blue Gold Tree clan leader still have? No matter how they examined it, they all agreed. Without the Scourge Dragon, Tang San had almost no chance of beating Lan Maqian, whether she used her divine swords or not. So if he won and his wife also won, they'd both enter the winner's bracket. According to the rules, their next match would be against each other. No matter who won between them, at least one of them would make the top 3 and gain an emperor's seat. What could be more satisfying? With that thought, Ning Chenen felt heat surging through him. He subconsciously clenched his fists. Contestants, prepare. The Rainbow Glaze Nymph Emperor announced in a calm voice. Ning Chenen nadid. Instantly, a surge of dark golden light burst from him, and his already massive form grew even more imposing. Muscles bulged beneath his skin as the domineering aura of the Golden Mammoth bloodline erupted. The dark golden glow rapidly condensed into a solid-looking golden force. At the same time, his eyes transformed. His left eye turned a deep, dark gold that seemed to swirl like an endless vortex. His right eye turned a radiant gold that shone like a yellow diamond. The originally dark golden aura surrounding Ning Chenen began to transform. While it was still a deep golden color, its outer rims now shimmered with a strange brilliance. This was clearly the sign of both the Golden Mammoth and Adamant Nymph bloodlines being activated simultaneously. While Ning Chenen couldn't fuse his bloodlines into one as Tang San had to evolve a transcendent bloodline, he could still unleash the synergy of these 2 similar bloodlines in tandem. Not only that, but Ning Chenen also revealed his weapon, or rather weapons, a pair of heavy hammers. Their shafts were dark golden color, and the massive hammerheads, which had a somewhat unusual octagonal profile, were carved with beautiful flower patterns. With these twin hammers in hand, Ning Chenen's presence swelled again, becoming almost unbearably dense. Behind him, a glowing projection appeared. A massive mammoth sitting on the ground, cradling an enormous diamond in its limbs. Though it looked somewhat comical, nobody was in the mood to laugh about it. Ning Chenen's aura was soaring madly. The 8-petal golden hammers were a set of heritage divine weapons of the golden mammoth lineage. Naturally, they were Earth attribute treasures, and they had been created as a matched pair, which was rare for divine items of this level. In his battle against Jin Ongwa, Ning Chenen had used these very hammers to block the claw blade storm, wearing his opponent down until the latter ran out of energy. Now, before the match had even begun, Ning Chenen had already revealed his trump cards, not leaving any room for probing or hesitation. He knew full well how terrifying Mei Gongzi's sword strike was. If his defenses had even the most minute crack, it could all be over. On the other side of the stage, Mei Gongzi also did not begin as she had in previous matches. There were no fluctuations of space energy, no activation of the space domain or Azura Hell domain. Instead, a crimson glow flared between her brows, and the Azura Shadow Sword landed in her palm. She gripped it in both hands, raising it above her head. Then she closed her eyes. Her bloodline power surged violently, and her long hair instantly turned red. Her aura felt as if it was burning, and it was not just an impression. Her bloodline power truly had been ignited. Witnessing this, both the refereeing emperors and Ning Chenen were utterly stunned. What was she doing? How could she start by igniting her bloodline power? Was she insane? Both demons and nymphs cultivated bloodline power. The purer the bloodline, the closer it was to the ancestral essence and the more power one could draw from it. But while simply consuming one's bloodline power came at no cost other than being tired and having to recover, igniting one's bloodline power was a desperate measure, one that risked damaging one's blood origin. In fact, if it was done for too long, it could even lead to death. No one expected that before the match had even begun, Mei Gongzi would ignite her bloodline in such a reckless manner. A strange and indescribable crimson flame began to flow down from the Azura Shadow Sword, enveloping her entirely. Mei Gongzi was wreathed in that blazing red aura. While the Azura Shadow Sword's glow exploded in brilliance, its sword intent shooting to the heavens. Watching from across the arena, the Sword Saint Demon Emperor shivered ever so slightly with excitement. He could sense more clearly than anyone else the immense power contained within Mei Gongzi's sword. Someone had once told him, "What is the sword? The sword is justice. The sword is judgment. The sword is sacrifice." And now in this moment the Azura Shadow Sword in Mei Gongzi's hand seemed to contain all three: justice, judgment and sacrifice, merged into one. It was as if the person known as Mei Gongzi had ceased to exist. All that remained was a sword will that could split the world itself. "Your Majesty, Sword Saint, this is a problem." The Rainbow Glaze Nymph Emperor sent a voice transmission across the field immediately. This strike far surpassed the Great Demon King level. As expected of someone who had made it to the finals and wielded such a terrifying divine weapon, Mei Gongzi's full power blow while burning her bloodline power was clearly on the level of an emperor, not far from the Sword Saint Demon Emperor's own full power blow. After taking Mei Gongzi's first strike head-on, the Endless Nymph Emperor had taken an entire day to fully purge its sword intent. But even that earlier attack paled in comparison to this one. The Rainbow Glaze Nymph Emperor was certainly confident in being stronger than the Endless Nymph Emperor, yet it would never attempt to block this strike head-on. It wasn't foolish. This sword's power had been discussed in the council, and deemed a threat to even the emperors. But the Sword Saint Demon Emperor acted as if he hadn't heard the transmission. His eyes were locked onto that red sword and his face flushed, as if he had grasped something. After his earlier exchange with Tang San, his sword path had already changed and improved significantly, but now, gazing upon Mei Gongzi's strike, he sensed within it a unique set of laws. It was something intangible and indescribable, yet at the same time capable of shaking the heavens. From his seat, Tang San also watched the forming of this sword light. His brow furrowed slightly, but his eyes were filled with understanding. In fact, in his heart, he couldn't help giving Mei Gongzi a mental thumbs up. "My brilliant wife, you really are smart. Announce the start." Just then, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's voice rang out from halfway up the mountain. Sword Saint and Rainbow Glaze snapped back to their senses. Yes, the preparation phase had dragged on too long. Usually, this stage was meant for contestants to prepare their abilities, But Mei Gongzi had gone straight into full charge-up mode using bloodline ignition. No one had expected that. While the referees were staring at Mei Gongzi in stupefaction, the Azura Shadow Sword had begun turning translucent, and the aura of the burning bloodline power was even more intense. "Begin!" The rainbow-glazed nymph emperor called out urgently. The barrier separating the two contestants vanished instantly. Though he was thoroughly shocked, Ning Chenen's battle instincts kicked in. He immediately raised his 8-petal golden hammers, ready to attack or defend as needed. But at that very moment, a crushing pressure descended upon him, one so terrifying that his soul itself seemed to tremble. Fear gripped his heart. He saw Mei Gongzi with her red sword raised, surrounded by the raging aura of bloodline power ignition, with her red hair fluttering in the wind like a goddess of war and destruction. The hammers in Ning Chenen's hands began to tremble, emitting clear ringing sounds. A deep fear surged through him, not his own fear, but that of the divine weapons in his hands. Though they were quite famous among divine weapons and particularly known for their raw power and incredible toughness, the 8-petal golden hammers were now quivering in fear. They were screaming at him in every way possible. "Can't block. We can't block that sword. If the sword falls, we all die." This overwhelming emotion caused Ning Chenen to freeze. As someone who excelled in defense but not offense, he now found himself paralyzed.
Mei Gongzi's gaze locked fiercely onto Ning Chenen.
"This sword shall split the heavens." Behind her, a massive red humanoid silhouette appeared. It was illusory yet awe-inspiring. As it emerged, the Azura Shadow Sword in her hand let out a sharp, resonant hum. The sky itself turned crimson, and even the gathered emperors felt an oppressive weight in their hearts, forcing them to marshal their divine consciousness to resist. The hammers in Ning Chenen's hands never fell. Of course, Ning Chenen understood that the sword strike Mei Gongzi was preparing carried all her strength, drawn at the cost of temporarily disabling her bloodline power. Its power easily reached the emperor level, especially when paired with that terrifying divine sword. He didn't possess an undying golden body. His defense relied solely on his bloodline power and his hammers. Against a blow like that, he was fairly sure he couldn't hold on, and the moment a crack appeared, he would unquestionably die in body and spirit. If they had attacked each other from the start, if he hadn't given her the chance to ignite her bloodline power and lock onto him, he might have had a chance to drag it into a slugfest that he inevitably would have won. But due to a combination of timing and pressure, Mei Gongzi's strike had already reached peak power, and this peak was even higher than the world-sundering sword shown by Qiu Zixuan. After all, it was a sacrificial blow. Even if nothing else happened right now, she would undoubtedly suffer once she got off the platform. But whatever happened to her later was her own problem to deal with later. His very immediate problem was that he did not dare to take it head-on. Forget about him, even an emperor might not be able to stop it, and he had absolutely no desire to court death at his young age. Yet Mei Gongzi seemed not to hear his call. She stepped forward and slashed out with the Azura Shadow Sword.
Ning Chenen yelled in fright.
His aura exploded, and he raised his 8-petal golden hammers to shield his head, even crouching down behind them. But he didn't feel the impact of that overwhelming force. Instead, the pressure vanished. The arena fell deathly silent. Following intense fear came an overwhelming sense of shame. She hadn't even struck him. He had actually cowered and crouched. At that moment, he knew he was finished. His mentality had collapsed. His hope of claiming an emperor's seat was gone. Crack, 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 crack. Strange sounds suddenly drew his attention. He instinctively looked up. The first thing he saw was Mei Gongzi. The blood-red flames covering her were now gradually receding, and her face was pale as paper. Though her eyes remained closed, she stood firm on the platform, using her sword as a crutch. The cracking wasn't coming from her, but from all around them. Ning Chenen turned his eyes and was shocked to see the array pillars surrounding the arena. Pillars that had withstood so many matches between peak-level warriors were now covered in a multitude of fractures. That was where the sound came from. Then his eyes rose to look at the sky, and his jaw dropped agape. The protective barrier above had been split open. Of the two referees floating above, only the rainbow-glazed nymph emperor was visible. The sword Saint Demon Emperor had disappeared. In the sky, all the crimson light was gathering in one direction, as if fleeing into the void. It looked as if the sky itself had split apart. Thousands of meters above, a colossal spatial rift stretched for miles, devouring the clouds. In just a few moments, what had been a cloud-filled sky became an endless, near-transparent blue, clear and empty. Mei Gongzi staggered slightly and her eyes lost their focus for a moment, but with the support of the Azura Shadow Sword, she barely managed to remain standing. Despite the massive crowd, the only sound was the collapse of the arena's protective array. Pillar after pillar cracked, then turned to rubble. The rainbow-glazed nymph emperor was thanking the heavens that it was wearing its customary crystalline helmet, and nobody could see its facial expression. That strike. Could I have blocked it? Without getting injured? No, could I have blocked it? Oh no. No one even paid attention to Ning Chenen's instinctive crouch. Everyone was staring at the sky and the enormous spatial rift left by the strike, so clear against the azure sky, so vast that it seemed it could devour the world. The flash of red light was seared into everyone's hearts. Victory to City Lord Mei. When the rainbow-glazed nymph emperor announced the result, it addressed Mei Gongzi not by name, but by title. The respect in its voice was plain for all to hear. That sword had indelibly etched itself into the hearts of everyone present. The other 4 finalists now all wore grim expressions. Of course, not all grim faces were the same. Tang San's was grim because through the Azura sword, he could feel Mei Gongzi's weakness. That strike had indeed damaged her blood origin. He understood why she had done it, and he knew that it had been the most appropriate choice given the circumstances, but Karen Cloud's reason. He ached for her. If only he were stronger, she wouldn't have needed to go to such lengths. If he had shouldered more, she wouldn't have had to suffer. As for the other 4 contestants, their grim faces were due to fear. If Ning Chenen couldn't block that sword, could they? Absolutely not. Sure, Ning Chenen had faltered, and even the judges had lapsed, giving Mei Gongzi ample time to charge up. But even so, that strike was far too terrifying. No one brought up the referee's mistake, not even the Golden Mammoth Demon Emperor. The reason was simple. Mei Gongzi hadn't actually attacked Ning Chenen. In fact, from the moment she raised the sword, it seemed she had already decided he would surrender. She could have killed him with that blow. Its power made that a real possibility. And the worst part was if she'd done that, then Lan Machin would have been forced to swallow her grievances. A competitor killing another was par for the course, so who could make Mei Gongzi take responsibility? And the referees had certainly erred. But could someone accuse 2 emperors of negligence? Thank you, City Lord Mei. Ning Chenen finally regained his wits, only to realize his back was soaked with sweat. Never in his life had he felt death so near. He knew clearly that Mei Gongzi had shown mercy. Otherwise, he might already have vanished like the clouds, swallowed by that rift. In fact, the entire arena might have suffered massive casualties. The rainbow-glazed nymph emperor descended to Mei Gongzi's side, and a moment later, the Sword Saint Demon Emperor also appeared. It seemed that he had been up in the sky, dealing with the rift. He looked at Mei Gongzi with shining eyes. That strike had enlightened him in so many ways. Are you all right? He asked. I'm fine. Mei Gongzi had stabilized herself and stopped the burning of her bloodline power, but her face was now pale as paper, and she felt incredibly weak. I'll escort you back, said the rainbow-glazed nymph emperor. A blue gold fruit had gone for 5,000 amethystin coins at the previous auction. Was he trying to sell it to her? It's for you. Eat it, Tang San said earnestly. You burned your bloodline power and it caused damage to your blood origin. Mei Gongzi didn't take it. She, of course, knew that burning her bloodline would injure her foundation, but she had her own ways of dealing with it. Otherwise, she wouldn't have dared go that far. Relying on the Nirvana rebirth ability of the immortal Flame Phoenix bloodline, she would be able to recover quickly once she returned. While it wouldn't leave her completely unscathed, it definitely wouldn't be as bad as it appeared. It's too expensive, Mei Gongzi said softly. Tang San paused, then couldn't help but chuckle. It's a gift. For the sake of fair competition. When we meet in a couple rounds, I want to face you on equal footing. Mei Gongzi was taken aback. The next round? Right. If Tang San won his match today, he would also enter the winner's bracket. Then in the round after next, they would face each other. But where did his confidence come from? Not only would he have to win today, he'd also have to beat one of the other winners. Either Su and Yu or Jiang Chanchou. The reason Mei Gongzi had chosen to go all out against Ning Qianen was because she hadn't been confident in a guaranteed win. Ning Qianen's defense was far too strong, and with his dual bloodline and divine weapons, if the Azura sword couldn't break his defense in one move, its energy drain would become a disadvantage in an attrition battle. And in terms of stamina and foundation, Mei Gongzi couldn't match a season-peak Great Demon King, let alone someone like Ning Qianen. So she'd made her decision even before the match started. Use her most explosive strike to secure immediate victory at any cost. With Nirvana Rebirth, she could recover most of the losses from burning her bloodline. Furthermore, as the top scorer in the round robin, winning her first match allowed her to skip the next round of the winner's bracket, granting her an extra day of rest. She would only fight again after the other two winners faced off. I can't take it. It's too valuable, Mei Gongzi said. Tang San stepped forward and placed the blue gold fruit in front of her. Take it. For the sake of fairness. If you really feel bad about it, once you become an emperor, you'll get plenty of congratulatory gifts, so you can just pay me back then. With that, he turned and walked off, returning to his resting chamber. The other three contestants were a bit surprised by this gesture. But what could they do to stop him? Maybe he was just currying favor? Mei Gongzi had one foot on the podium already, and this blue-gold tree clan leader had shown his admiration for her from the start. There wasn't anything too suspicious about it. Eat it, came a voice in Mei Gongzi's mind. It was the White Tiger Demon Emperor. After a brief hesitation, she picked up the blue-gold fruit and took a bite. Immediately, a surge of rich life energy flowed through her body, soothing the damage. Tang San didn't return to his seat right away. Instead, he turned to the others, smiled and said, I've got 2 more blue-gold fruits if you want. 5,000 each. Anyone's welcome to buy one anytime. Suan Yu smacked his forehead. You really are worthy of the title Amethystan Warrior, Brother Jean. Even now you're thinking about making a profit, even if it means arming your rivals. Tang San laughed heartily. We're competitors, not enemies. Let's keep it fair. Ning Qianen had already returned, looking utterly dejected. He glanced toward Mei Gongzi's pavilion, opened his mouth as if to speak, then ultimately said nothing and slumped back onto his throne. Losing the first round had crushed his hopes, and more importantly, his confidence. Tang San had already guessed what Mei Gongzi would do when she began burning her bloodline power, and the fact that she could commit to such a decisive tactical choice made him proud. He knew she'd be fine thanks to Nirvana Rebirth, but that process wasn't without its own cost. Not to mention, it simply wasn't as effective as the blue gold fruit. The effect of a great nymph king level 1 was just barely short of raising the dead. Its immense life energy could repair any wounds and nourish anyone. He couldn't help her openly, but giving her a fruit? That was easy. The next match would be Tang San versus Lan Maqian. But the problem was that the platform's barrier had been destroyed. Their match was currently on hold while the emperors repaired the array pillars. Yet no emperors had descended to work on it, and no one knew why. It was only after a long delay that the celestial fox demon emperor's voice rang out from Council Mountain. Due to the overwhelming power displayed by the finalists, which poses a risk of collateral damage to the spectators, the remaining matches will take place in mid-air. Contestants, do your best to avoid attacks that could damage the ancestral court. Contestants for the next match, prepare to begin at an altitude of 1,000 meters. The audience immediately stirred. A battle at 1,000-meter altitude could still be seen from below, but not as clearly as if it happened on the arena platform. Still, after witnessing that terrifying sword strike from Mei Gongzi, they were all a bit shaken. If that strike had been aimed toward a different side of the stage and the barrier or the emperors hadn't stopped it, the death toll would have been devastating. And since it was the emperor's decision, no one dared protest. Lan Maqian stood up from her throne. Glancing at her defeated husband in the next chamber, her eyes ignited with burning flames, the flames of her desire for victory. Ning Qianen was a lost cause, so she could not afford to lose. Moreover, from appearances alone, her opponent today was likely the weakest of the finalists. If she could defeat the Blue Gold Tree Clan leader, she would have a real shot at reaching the top 3. Tang San also stood and stepped outside his chamber. He looked across at Mei Gongzi. After consuming the blue gold fruit, her complexion had already regained a healthy glow. He could clearly sense the vigorous life force emanating from her. She was going to be all right. The blue gold fruit's effects would last for a while, just enough time for her to recover perfectly. Tang San gestured politely to Lan Maqian. She didn't hesitate, leaping skyward like a meteor going the wrong way. Tang San followed close behind. The 8 spines on his back pierced the floor of his pavilion, flexed, then suddenly snapped back to straightness, launching him upward like a catapult. They reached 1,000 meters in no time. Thanks to Mei Gongzi's earlier strike, the sky remained brilliantly clear. But from the audience's perspective, the two combatants now appeared as nothing more than black dots. Lan Maqian hovered in the air, her twin divine greatswords already in hand. Grief and heavy water. Back when Mei Gongzi faced these swords, she'd nearly suffered defeat. Across from her, Tang San also hovered in place. With a wave of his hand, the holy dragon spear materialized in his palm, radiating brilliant orange-golden light. The moment it appeared, a brilliant aura surged outward, giving everyone a sense of sacred transcendence. There was no doubt about it. This divine weapon had evolved, and not just by a little. The extremely rare holy energy it radiated made even Radiant Dragon King Suan Yu turn slightly red-eyed with envy. By this point, he had already understood that buying the spear back from Tang San was bound to be nearly impossible. The rainbow-glazed nymph emperor, who had left earlier, flew up to the mid-air battleground, but the Sword Saint Demon Emperor did not accompany it. This was because Lan Maqian had studied the sword under him, so he had recused himself to avoid any conflict of interest. On the Empyrean Dominion's side, the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor was dispatched instead. Though he was the weakest among the emperors, he was still an emperor, and nobody had any concerns as to whether he could do this or not. Both referees turned to look at Tang San and Lan Maqian. Contestants, prepare. Lan Maqian's expression instantly sharpened, and her gaze locked onto Tang San. In her right hand, grief quivered slightly, humming in the air, while in her left hand, the glow of heavy water turned even darker and more profound. Her overwhelming aura burst out in full force. Tang San held the holy dragon spear in his right hand, and behind him, the projection of the ancestral tree once again emerged, surging with boundless life energy. Then, under the watching eyes of all, something new appeared in his left hand. The audience squinted skyward, almost all of them focusing solely on Tang San. This amethystine warrior had gone undefeated through every stage of the competition, constantly bringing surprises with every match. Now in the finals, what new tricks would he reveal? That was what everyone was looking forward to the most. What abilities would Tang San pull out this time? That had become even more important to them than the match result itself. Was the amethystine warrior out of tricks, as some naysayers claimed, or did he still have some bizarre surprises left? When they saw a new object appear in his left hand, their first reaction was, of course, he didn't disappoint. Another surprise from the amethystine warrior. But upon a second look, many of them noticed it was not a new object at all. In fact, it had once helped him win a match. It was none other than the Dark Turtle Shield, the divine shield that had previously blocked the world-sundering sword and forced Qiu Zixuan to forfeit. It was famous for its literally impregnable defense, but equally infamous for its literally unparalleled weight, which made it practically unusable. Even emperors struggled to move it around. Last time, Tang San had simply planted it into the ground and hidden behind it to survive the world-sundering sword. But now he had taken it out mid-air. For a moment, everyone expected him to fall down, like a meteorite going in the right direction. Yet the incredible weight of the shield seemed to have no impact on him whatsoever. The two emperors and Lan Maqian also reflexively squinted so they could see more clearly. And indeed, in Tang San's left hand was the notorious pitch-black shield, and in his right hand the glorious holy dragon spear. All in all, it was a classic spear and shield warrior setup. Could he actually wield the Dark Turtle Shield in combat? The Crystal Phoenix and Rainbow Glazed Nymph Emperors didn't know all that much about it, but it was an ancient divine item of the ancestral court, so they did have some knowledge of it, and they had even tried, unsuccessfully of course, to activate it in the past. The Dark Turtle Shield was incomparably tough, but its weight was astronomical. It was close to 50 tons in weight. Even emperors wouldn't bother with such a thing. Not because they couldn't lift it, but because it was completely impractical. The loss in mobility made it a burden in combat. But now Jean Miaolin seemed to be holding it effortlessly, as if that immense weight meant nothing to him. The rainbow-glazed nymph emperor saw that both contestants had drawn their weapons, and with the lesson of the previous fight fresh in mind, it immediately announced, "Begin." Lan Maqian had naturally seen the dark turtle shield too, but so what? She wasn't Xiao Zixuan. Her attacks weren't all frontal, and she wasn't a one-trick pony. On the ground, Jean Miaolin could at least brace against the platform, but in the sky, was he actively trying to lose faster? The two emperors quickly retreated. Lan Maqian dashed forward in a flash, her aura erupting. In the sky, sword light flared, and grief came down directly at Tang San. Tang San swiftly raised the shield to intercept. 9 sharp clangs rang out in rapid succession. It was Grief's signature ability, Ninefold Shock. This was a full-power assault from Lan Maqian, combining a behemoth's raw strength, her sword mastery, the divine weapon's ability, and her built-up momentum, all unleashed in one burst. But when the strikes landed on the black tortoise shield, they only produced a crisp series of rings. Tang San didn't retreat a single step. It appeared that all the force had been absorbed by the shield. Then came his counterattack. With his right hand, he thrust the Holy Dragon Spear along the edge of the shield in a straightforward and simple move. Infused with divine life energy, the Holy Dragon Spear erupted in brilliant orange-gold light as the spear tip streaked toward Lan Maqian. Her first strike having failed, she immediately swung the heavy water sword in her other hand, yet another weapon known for its weight. Simultaneously, she shifted her body to the side in an attempt to dodge the Holy Dragon Spear while her sword beheaded Tang San. But at that moment, she noticed something strange. She had clearly evaded, yet the spear tip was still pointing straight at her. It felt as though the spear tip was tracking her, as if it was somehow drawn to her by an unknown force. When the Holy Dragon Spear was still the Radiant Dragon Spear, its most prominent ability was light element purification. It was able to enhance and refine any light energy infused into it. That was what made Suan Yu so desperate to obtain it. No one else could wield it like he could. Now that it had evolved, it had not only gained the holy attribute and a subsequent stronger purification ability, but also a new ability. One that Tang San had carved into it during his 6 days of seclusion, Absolute Strike. It was exactly what it sounded like. In essence, once the spear locked onto the target's aura, it couldn't be dodged. The only option was to block it directly. Lan Maqian reacted with impressive speed. Her heavy water, which had been sweeping toward Tang San's neck, instantly changed angles to strike the spear instead. And then, something bizarre happened. Tang San's shield suddenly radiated a black glow. A weird, dark glow emerged on its surface, as if the shell had come alive, and a tremendous suction force burst forth from it. A massive sword like heavy water, combined with Lan Maqian's monstrous strength, was not something that could be deviated by just anything. Yet this titanic sword swinging at full momentum was suddenly yanked toward the shield by a terrifying gravitational pull. The unexpected shift caught Lan Maqian off guard. She tried her best to control the sword, but the suction from the black tortoise shield was too strong, dragging the heavy water sword off course. With grief already knocked aside and now heavy water being dragged away, Lan Maqian found herself unable to evade Tang San's deceptively simple thrust. At that critical moment, her combat experience showed its worth. Without a moment's hesitation, she let go of heavy water, allowing it to be pulled away. With the same swift motion, her right hand snapped out like lightning, and razor-sharp claws extended to strike the spear point directly. A sharp crack rang out as the spear was deflected, but at that instant, a wave of orange-gold light burst from the spear tip, engulfing Lan Maqian and momentarily freezing her in mid-air. At that moment, heavy water was already stuck fast to the black tortoise shield. Tang San's movements remained astoundingly simple. He pulled back his spear, keeping the black tortoise shield raised in front of him, and then thrust the spear again straight at Lan Maqian. What Lan Maqian was experiencing was holy baptism, which was also exactly what it sounded like, a shower of holy energy. Though she wasn't of the darkness attribute or anything of the kind, and thus wouldn't take direct damage from the holy energy, the moment the sacred radiance engulfed her, she felt warm all over. Strangely comfortable even. So comfortable in fact that, Her fighting spirit took a hit. Her body grew sluggish as if she didn't want to move. Worse still, the berserk state of her bloodline power was being pacified under the influence of the holy glow, which dramatically reduced her explosive power. The damage was minimal, but the effect? Tremendous. Tang San's next thrust followed swiftly, forcing Lan Maqian, who had been planning to retrieve heavy water, to again confront an inescapable strike. Grief swung upward and clashed with the holy dragon spear, triggering the ninefold shock again. A crisp series of clangs rang out as the holy dragon spear was once more deflected, but due to the lingering effects of the holy energy, Lan Maqian clearly felt her strength diminishing. And as her sword struck again, the holy baptism fell over her once more, soothing yet maddening. She was beyond frustrated. This holy energy was just too damn cursed. She bit her tongue, using the pain to shake herself back to clarity. She twisted rapidly, and grief erupted with a storm of sword lights that surged toward Tang San like a raging tempest. Tang San retracted his spear and thrust again, but the sword light storm knocked the spear aside instantly. Even so, the holy energy persisted, and all the sword strikes crashed harmlessly into the black tortoise shield. The shield, with heavy water still magnetically attached to it, seemed to expand and completely enclose Tang San's body. No matter how Lan Maqian changed angles, the black tortoise shield was always in the way. All her attacks were blocked with ease. Her sword technique, directly passed down to her by the Sword Saint Demon Emperor, undoubtedly made her one of the best sword wielders alive. Her power, speed, and reflexes were all top tier as well. But it didn't matter how many changes she made to her footwork or blade techniques. What met her every time was the same thing. Shield block. Shield block. Shield block. Booming clangs echoed constantly across the sky. By this point, everyone had lost count of how many times Lan Maqian had struck Tang San. And Tang San's tactics? Always the same: thrust, pull back the spear, thrust, pull back the spear, rinse and repeat. A simple, direct thrust, but it was undodgeable, and because Lan Maqian couldn't dodge, she had no choice but to block. Compared to the decisive, earth-shattering clash between Mei Gongzi and Ning Chanen, this was a completely different thing. It was a brain-grinding, relentless war of attrition. Lan Maqian soon realized that Tang San's strategy felt very familiar. Because, wasn't this her husband's signature approach? The critical difference was that her husband didn't have a divine weapon like the Holy Dragon Spear. In other words, he could defend himself, but he had no way of attacking properly. Meanwhile, not only could Tang San completely defend against her, but he could also constantly pressure her with unavoidable spear thrusts, giving her no room to rest. She had to defend and retaliate without pause. Though the attack frequency was lower than her sword strikes, roughly one thrust for every 3 slashes of hers, it was that one thrust that always left her feeling miserable. Especially the ongoing effects of the holy energy. It was like a parasite clinging to her bones. The longer it stayed, the more unbearable it became. Even her fighting spirit was gradually unraveling. Tang San, meanwhile, was utterly unhurried. He was just blocking with the black tortoise shield and then poking with the holy dragon spear, and he looked fairly relaxed while doing so. This was a match between great demon kings, and yet this tactic was absurdly effective. Moreover, with the ancestral tree's projection still active behind him, the life energy in the sky didn't decrease. Instead, it kept gathering from all directions, continuously replenishing Tang San's strength. By complete contrast, Lan Maqian's stamina dwindled, and as her bloodline power weakened, the suppressive, well, technically calming, effect of the holy energy only grew stronger. This can't go on. If this dragged out any longer, I might just get worn down to nothing. This was the first match of the finals. She absolutely couldn't lose. Only by winning could she hope to place in the top 3. With that realization, Lan Maqian's gaze sharpened suddenly. A blazing dark golden flame erupted from her eyes. The flame of life. Indeed, just like Mei Gongzi earlier, she had ignited her bloodline power. The moment her aura flared, her speed and strength surged. The 9-fold shock suddenly turned into a 12-fold shock. Like a storm, she unleashed a mad onslaught upon the black tortoise shield. Tang San's spear was now barely a factor. Every time it struck out, grief would immediately knock it away. She even attempted to exploit the gaps in his thrusts to pierce through and strike him directly. But the black tortoise shield was like a full-on steel bubble, covering all possible angles from which Tang San might be attacked. Though the shield only appeared to cover the front, no matter how quickly or how cleverly Lan Maqian darted about, all that met her blade was shield and more shield. Her unleashed strength hit the defense like waves hit a cliff. Perhaps if it continued for another 100,000 years, it may or may not create some minor dents. She reached out multiple times to grab heavy water, which was still stuck to the shield, but no matter how hard she pulled, it refused to budge. It was as if it had fused with the shield. Her life flame blazed ever fiercer. Her attacks became more and more crazed. As for Tang San, he didn't change his approach at all. Even though his spear barely posed a threat now, getting instantly deflected every time, his rhythm never shifted. Shield block. Spear thrust. Lan Maqian was close to coughing blood. She had already brought her offensive to its peak, yet she still couldn't do a thing to Tang San. How was this possible? How? It was nothing but a single spear and a single shield, yet she was utterly powerless. A quarter hour passed. Then another. The bloodline power, physical power, and divine consciousness of a peak great demon king, especially one from the Behemoth clan, were incredibly vast. But even so, in a prolonged clash, especially one where said great demon king was burning their bloodline power as fuel, they were bound to end at some point. Despair began to take hold, and as her assault stretched into the third quarter hour, fatigue began to overtake her. Lan Maqian knew she couldn't hold out much longer. Am I going to lose? Am I really going to lose this match too? The unwillingness in her heart was overwhelming. But as her offensive faltered, Tang San's holy dragon spear struck again. Its force was not overwhelming, barely at the level of an ordinary great demon or great nymph king. Lan Maqian could still deflect it easily. However, the holy energy continued to impede her movement. Worse still, even as she grew weaker, the spear remained as steady as ever. Now Lan Maqian began to understand what her husband's opponents must have felt. Utter disgust. This kind of opponent was revolting. Absolutely revolting. Finally, her reaction was a beat too slow. The sharp spear tip sliced across her waist, leaving a gash. Instantly, an even stronger burst of holy energy surged into her. And at that exact moment, a golden light exploded from Tang San, engulfing Lan Maqian completely. Because the holy energy had already invaded her system, she couldn't even dodge in time. A strange suction force suddenly appeared around Lan Maqian. She felt her life energy rapidly draining away, and the fatigue she was already feeling intensified in an instant. The life deprivation domain. Lan Maqian's own domain boosted her offensive power, but it was helpless against the black tortoise shield. Meanwhile, Tang San's life deprivation domain could only be used in a small area. He hadn't been able to catch her with it before, but now as her body weakened, there was no way she could dodge it anymore. The holy dragon spear followed up again. Grief defended and deflected it, but the holy energy still surged in. The flame of life that Lan Maqian had ignited extinguished in that moment. If she continued burning it, she truly would be risking death. When the holy dragon spear knocked grief aside and stopped at her throat, her body swayed. She could barely remain airborne. She didn't want to admit defeat. No matter what, she didn't want to lose. She wanted to win. Yet she couldn't understand how this match had ended in her loss. And so, after nearly a full hour of battle, the match finally concluded. Skytree City Lord Jean Mirolan of the Blue Gold Tree Clan is victorious, announced the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor. The entire audience erupted in shock. The black tortoise shield finally disappeared, revealing Jean Miaolin's annoyingly calm smile. Stowing away his spear as well, Tang San nodded toward Lan Maqian in acknowledgement. You made the dark turtle shield acknowledge you? It was painfully obvious to Lan Maqian that the shield was not behaving the way it had been described during the auction. Yes, just barely. These divine weapons happen to be quite compatible with my life energy, or maybe I should say they're hungry for life energy. I simply poured life energy into them until they accepted me. A trace of bitterness appeared on Lan Maqian's face. Was having high-level life energy really that valuable? The Scourged Dragon had acknowledged him. The Radiant Dragon Spear had evolved for him. And now even the Dark Turtle Shield, an artifact the Ancestral Court had held for more than a millennium without success, had chosen him. Who would still think the Blue Gold Tree Clan leader had been foolish at the super auction? Every divine item he had bought had far exceeded expectations in value. First match of the finals and Tang San had claimed victory. He'd won using just 2 divine weapons, both of which were technically incompatible yet had been somewhat coaxed into working with him. Of course, Tang San hadn't succeeded merely by using high-level life energy. The real reason the Black Tortoise Shield had submitted to him was that he held a divine seat. Only a true god could awaken the shield's true radiance. In truth, Tang San had deliberately suppressed the shield's true power in this match. With his cultivation level, using its full power would drain him in just moments. But even so, the shield's defense was orders of magnitude beyond what Lan Maqian could break. Tang San couldn't really make plans for his opponents in the elimination phase, and he had been forced to play by the ear. Now that he knew whom he would fight, things were a lot easier or at least a lot simpler to plan for. Lan Maqian excelled at offense. That made the Black Tortoise Shield her perfect counter. With its dual water and earth attributes, it was easily one of the ultimate, if not the ultimate, divine items of this plane, and it was supremely effective against both elements. The heavy water divine sword, though impressive, could only be suppressed by the shield. Left with only one weapon, Lan Maqian hadn't even forced Tang San to use other abilities. With the shield's defense, plus the ancestral tree's life energy augmentation, the outcome of this battle had been decided from the start. And that wasn't even mentioning the disgusting holy energy that kept pressing her. Amethystin warrior. Amethystin warrior. Amethystin warrior. After the initial shock, the crowd erupted into a thunderous roar. It was as if they had just personally won the battle for the throne. Descending from the sky, Tang San returned directly to his own pavilion. Ning Chenin stepped forward to meet Lan Maqian. The married couple met eyes. Ning Chenin gave a bitter smile and reached out for her hand, only to have it swatted away. Without a word, Lan Maqian turned and left. With both of them defeated, their next round in the losers bracket guaranteed one of them would be eliminated. What had once seemed like the best-case scenario had now become the worst. As Tang San descended onto the common platform and walked toward his own pavilion, he passed by Suan Yu's pavilion. "Brother Jean, name your price for the Holy Dragon Spear." "Not now, after the tournament ends," Suan Yu said as he stepped down from his seat. It was his turn to fight. Tang San saw the burning eagerness in his eyes and gave a wry smile. "I truly can't bear to part with it anymore. When it was still just the Radiant Dragon Spear, it was one thing. But now, after evolving in my hands, it feels like my own child. I'm really too attached." Suan Yu sighed. "I figured as much. Ha! Fate truly plays games with us. Still, after this tournament ends, I hope you'll come visit Crystal City. I'd love to learn more about this holy energy from you. I have a feeling that it may be the key to my ascension to emperorhood. Specifically, I think it might be the key to having my bloodline evolve as well." "Of course." Tang San nodded with a smile. Suan Yu added, "If I win today, we'll face each other tomorrow. But your tactics today won't work on me. I've got light sprites, so stamina's not a concern. And your holy attribute? It might just work in my favor." "I know. This set wasn't meant for you," Tang San replied with a grin. "A set? The Amethystin coin set," Suan Yu said with a pained chuckle. After all these matches, this seemingly weakest blue gold tree patriarch had yet to be defeated. Anyone who still underestimated him now had to be a fool. Suan Yu clearly knew by now. Jean Miaolin was far more dangerous than he appeared. Something like that. But for you, just an Amethystin coin set won't be enough. "I'll throw in a little extra," Tang San replied, grinning wider. Since Suan Yu had kindly reminded him that the holy energy might empower rather than suppress him, Tang San decided to return the favor and give him a warning. Third match. Suan Yu vs. Jiang Chancho. "Ascend and prepare for battle," came the voice of the celestial fox demon emperor. Suan Yu's eyes lit up. He looked at Tang San and said, "All right. Tomorrow I look forward to getting some pointers from you, Brother Jean." Clearly, he was confident that no matter what Tang San brought forth, he would still prevail. On the other side, Jiang Chancho was already flying into the sky. Suan Yu followed, rising quickly into the air. Tang San resumed his walk back to his lounge. As he passed Mei Gongzi's rest area, he peeked in. only to find her staring back at him. Tang San smiled. Mei Gongzi nodded slightly. Congratulations. He replied with a grin. No need to rush. Wait till I beat Suan Yu tomorrow, then you can congratulate me. Then it'll be you and me, fighting for the first slot in the top 3. After eating the blue gold fruit, Mei Gongzi had recovered from her bloodline ignition. After all, she hadn't done it for long. Now, with the surging life energy within her, her cultivation even showed signs of improving slightly. Her state was better than ever, and her irritation toward this man had lessened a bit. 5,000 amethystine coins. I'll pay you back, she said seriously. Tang San chuckled. If you end up marrying me, we can just call it a dowry. Mei Gongzi's face immediately frosted over. That's impossible. Your shield may not be able to block my sword. Tang San laughed heartily. Then we'll see soon enough. As they spoke, the third match of the day was beginning to end midair. Radiant light streamed from the light sprite behind Suan Yu. On the other side, Jiang Chanchou had transformed into a colossal scorching sunflower, and the sky above was blanketed in blazing brilliance. In the next instant, a violent elemental clash fully erupted. Suan Yu's strategy in this battle was oddly reminiscent of Tang San's earlier approach. He didn't rush to attack Jiang Chanchou. Instead, he relied on his perfect mastery over light to engage in a prolonged war of attrition. High in the sky, light and fire exploded and collided. Blazing brilliance burst forth again and again. With every surge, the air rippled violently. With every clash, a cascade of radiant rain scattered through the heavens. The entire sky now resembled a breathtaking fireworks display. After just a few moments of watching the scene, Tang San already knew the outcome. The undying golden body was indeed a powerful defensive artifact, but it wasn't as useful in this fight as it had been against Mei Gongzi. Jiang Chenchou's burst-type offense was also formidable, but unfortunately for her, her opponent was Suan Yu. Suan Yu not only had superior cultivation, but as a dragon, his physique, bloodline power, and innate talent for elemental control, as well as his battle instincts, were all first-rate. From among the many powerhouses of the strongest race on the demon continent, Suan Yu had been chosen by everyone to represent them in the competition for control of Crystal City. A selection, needless to say, based purely on strength. On top of that, his light sprite generated an almost endless supply of light energy. From the moment the match began, he was already in an invincible position. That's why Suan Yu opted for the most cautious combat strategy. There was no need to take any risks. He only needed calm and relentless offense to wear down Jiang Chenchou. This match actually lasted longer than Tang San's battle against Lan Maqian. 2 full hours. It wasn't until Jiang Chanchou was too drained to even move a vine that the curtain finally fell. The first round of the finals concluded. In the winner's bracket, there were Mei Gongzi, Tang San, and Suan Yu. The losers bracket held Jiang Chanchou, Lan Maqian, and Ning Chenen. Tomorrow, 2 matches would take place. Tang San versus Suan Yu, and the husband and wife showdown Lan Maqian versus Ning Chenen. In the winner's bracket, whoever won would gain the right to challenge Mei Gongzi. As for the loser, they would drop into the losers bracket to await further challengers. There was no doubt. The 3 competitors who won in the first round now held a massive advantage in securing a top 3 position. In a tournament of this level, if not for the wild card that was the Amethystine Coin Warrior, the rankings would have been practically set after round 1. As the battle for the throne edged toward its conclusion, the atmosphere within the ancestral court began to subtly shift. The final 6 contestants were now confirmed. The 3 spots for new emperors would be chosen from among them, so beyond the literal power struggle, the political power struggle had become very important as well. At present, the Solstice Empire was disadvantaged. Of their 2.5 entrants into the finals, only Tang San had won his first match. Jiang Chanchou had lost to Suan Yu. The upcoming match between Ning Chenen and Lan Maqian would determine the next to advance, but beneath the surface, this also involved the interests of multiple parties. Just as Tang San had said to Mei Gongzi earlier, the next match in the winner's bracket was critical. Tang San would face Suan Yu, while Mei Gongzi could sit back and conserve energy. Meanwhile, one of those in the losers bracket would be eliminated directly. From the Empyrean Dominion side, the final contenders included 1 dragon, 1 behemoth, and 1 peacock demon representative, Mei Gongzi was not a tiger race representative, and as for her human bloodline, that was not even taken into account. Ning Chenen also only represented the golden mammoth race. Surprisingly, the phoenix race, which currently had 2 emperors, had no representative make it into the finals. This unexpected result was actually a relief to both the demon and nymph sides. If the phoenix race had a 3rd contender vying for emperorhood, they would definitely have been targeted. So now the key question was, which finalist would be most acceptable to both sides as the next emperor? This became a matter of utmost importance. There was no doubt. The dragon race was going all in. Li Xiaoping had been forced to withdraw due to the Misfortune Pearl's backlash, leaving Su and Yu as their sole hope. With only the tenebrous demon emperor left among the dragons, and not even among the top emperors, this situation was almost unprecedented. Naturally, they were determined to win a new emperor's seat to preserve their influence. Though Su and Yu might not measure up to the former crystal demon emperor, he was younger than Tenebrous and he was bound to be stronger once he ascended. And with 2 emperors, they would easily be able to maintain their status. As the most powerful race on the demon continent, they would stop at nothing. Crystal City could not be taken away from them. Then there were the behemoths. Jinonggua's failure to reach the finals was also unexpected. And ironically, he had been eliminated by his own brother-in-law and ally, Ning Chenen. Now only Lan Maqian remained. Whether the behemoths could secure a 2nd emperor's seat remained uncertain. Other races, naturally, preferred not to see powerful groups like the dragons or behemoths gain another emperor. Too many emperors in one race threatened the delicate balance of power. Su and Yu's position was somewhat more acceptable. Not only did the dragons already wield great influence, but the previous Crystal Demon Emperor's seat had just been vacated due to death. Crystal City was crucial to their interests, and losing it was unacceptable, and could well result in a war. Hence, there was relatively little opposition to Su and Yu. Similarly, and in stark contrast to his wife, Ning Chenen was more widely accepted. After all, he inherited the bloodline of the late adamant nymph emperor. According to ancestral court tradition, when an emperor died, members of the same clan were considered the most eligible successors, and also faced the least resistance. So despite his first-round loss, Ning Chenen didn't have many opponents. Unfortunately, as the lowest-ranked contestant from the preliminary points round, his path forward would be arduous. Making it into the top 3 was a tall order. But interestingly enough, among the demon side, the one facing the least resistance at the moment was actually Mei Gongzi. Naturally, because she had demonstrated overwhelming strength with her perfect win streak in the preliminaries and a victory in the first finals round. She already had 1 foot in the top 3. She was also a city lord in her own right, and she was from the Peacock Demon clan, a longtime rival of the Phoenix race. It had been many years since the Peacock Demons produced an emperor, and on top of that, she bore the bloodline of the White Tiger Demon Emperor. All of this combined made opposition to her minimal. Internally within the ancestral court, the only real doubt about Mei Gongzi stemmed from her human bloodline. But this matchmaking tournament was meant to resolve that issue. As long as she chose a husband afterward, all dissent would disappear. Even the celestial fox demon emperor would back her ascension. For the stability of the continent, having more emperors among the demon race was undoubtedly preferable. Given the current situation on the Empyrean Dominion side, Mei Gongzi and Su and Yu were now the most likely candidates for ascension. As for the Solstice Empire, Zhang Chanchou remained the highest ranked in the losers bracket. She still had a shot, but she would need to defeat the one who lost between Tang San and Su and Yu, and before that, overcome the winner. Between Lan Maqian and Ning Chenen, only by winning these rounds could she secure a top 3 spot. As a powerhouse of the Scorching Sunflower clan, Zhang Chanchou still faced obstacles on her path to becoming an emperor. After all, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor was already considered the strongest being on the demon continent. Coupled with the close ties to the Netherman Flower clan, if the Scorching Sunflower clan were to produce another emperor, it would likely upset the balance among the clans of the Solstice Empire. From that standpoint, it seemed even more reasonable for Ning Chenen to become an emperor instead. So, even within the Solstice Empire, opinions remained divided on whether Zhang Chanchou was the right candidate for ascension. Still, if Zhang Chanchou managed to secure one of the final 3 emperor seats, it would ultimately be a good thing. After all, another of the three contenders still had a rather unstable claim to the position. That contender was none other than Tang San, the clan leader of the Blue Gold Tree Clan. 1. Since the battle for the throne had begun, he had not lost a single match. Yet before each one, no one had believed he could win. He had been, without a doubt, the greatest anomaly of the competition, an oddity among oddities. When they first heard the term Amethystin Warrior, the emperors had simply taken it as a joke. But as the matches went on, Tang San repeatedly defeated formidable opponents with what could only be described as miraculous performances. The world-sundering sword, the direct legacy of the Sword Saint Demon Emperor and originally considered one of the tournament's most powerful strikes, had been blocked head-on by the Black Tortoise Shield, and Tang San had advanced. Judging by his performance in the first round of the finals, he likely had already mastered the shield by then. With Qiu Zixuan's combat style, he had stood no chance. Next came the Scourge Dragon, powered by Jin Miaolin's life energy in a creation-destruction combination that even made emperors feel danger. He had overpowered Jin Ongua, a result that planted the seed for Jin Ongua's eventual elimination. Each opponent he had faced had been formidable, and now, in the first round of the finals, he had even defeated Lan Maqian. Yet despite all this, no one had dared to say for certain that Tang San would finish in the top 3. His next opponent was Suan Yu, the tournament's strongest favorite. Could he produce yet another miracle? 0. If he lost to Suan Yu, he would likely face Zhang Chunqiu in the losers bracket. Zhang had the undying golden body and formidable cultivation. Could Tang San win again? And if he lost that match too, he would fall out of the top 3 altogether. So even now, despite Tang San holding a dominant position, no one could say with certainty that he would secure a spot in the final trio. But on the other hand, opposition to Tang San becoming an emperor had been the weakest from both the Solstice and Empyrean dominions. And in all seriousness, who would object to that? 0. Blue Gold Trees had never been a warrior clan, and Jin Miaolin's incredible vision and use of his resources had won him the hearts of the public. At the same time, his decision to refrain from using the Scourge Dragon in the tournament had won him the approval of the ancestral court, and it meant that the Blue Gold Tree clan was allowed to take a neutral stance in the future, serving all big cities by gathering life energy. In doing so, the clan would effectively become a shared blessing for all races. Who wouldn't want them nearby? 0. Had Jin Miaolin displayed overwhelming strength in battle? Not particularly. But the miraculous power of his life energy had not escaped the eyes of any of the emperors. Why had he been able to wield the Black Turtle Shield, which no one else had managed to use? It had to be due to the infusion of life energy. Why had the Scourge Dragon recovered its sanity and formed a contract with him? Again, life energy. The fact that he'd neutralized the force of destruction within the dragon and empowered it to an unprecedented degree had drawn the beast to his side. And the Radiant Dragon Spear? Under the infusion of his pure life energy, it had transformed into the Holy Dragon Spear, gaining the exceedingly rare Holy Energy. All of this showed just how powerful the ancestral tree's life energy truly was. And this life energy could be absorbed and utilized by all races and all bloodlines. If this individual became an emperor, the life energy he could bring to the ancestral court and to every major city would surely reach an entirely new level. He could even benefit the entire demon continent. That was a shared interest for both the Empyrean Dominion and the Solstice Empire. As the ruler of the continent, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor saw Tang San as a way to elevate the continent's overall life force, thus helping to gather more destiny energy, a direct benefit to himself. After all, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor was fast approaching the end of his lifespan, and such high-level life energy was the only real key to extending his life. As for the Sunborn Nymph Emperor, there was no need for further persuasion. Jin Miaolin had already pledged loyalty to him, and even promised that the first blue gold fruit produced by the next emperor of the clan would go to him. What more could be said? Jin Miaolin was already considered to be on the Sunborn team. For the emperors, Jin Miaolin ascending seemed like something that would benefit everyone. Now they were only worried whether he could survive the remaining matches. Even among the Solstice Emperors, aside from the Sunborn Nymph Emperor, who had refrained from making any public statement, most others had agreed that Jin Miaolin would be a better choice for emperor than Zhang Chunqiu. Even the Earthshade Nymph Emperor had conveyed this opinion to the Sunborn Nymph Emperor. Of course, the Emperor seats could not simply be handed out. They still had to be earned through competition. But as the second-ranked contestant overall, Tang San still had a strong chance. Although Tang San had clearly stated he would not meet guests before the end of the tournament, the flow of visitors and gifts had remained steady. Most of them were representatives from the major cities. The dragon clans, in particular, had been the most enthusiastic. Soon the second round of the finals would begin, and it would be an absolutely critical stage. For the winner's bracket, this round would grant one of them a throne. For the loser's bracket, a second loss meant elimination. There were only 2 matches, Tang San versus Suan Yu, and the husband and wife showdown. 2. On the morning of the next day, when Tang San arrived at the competition grounds, he was surprised to find that Mei Gongzi wasn't in the audience. She had no match that day. Her next match would take place the following day against the winner of Tang San and Suan Yu's duel. Whoever won that match had every chance of winning the overall championship. He didn't know how much she had expended yesterday during her bloodline ignition, but after consuming a blue gold fruit, she had fully recovered, and closing herself off for a short retreat would undoubtedly benefit her. Aside from Mei Gongzi, all the other contestants had arrived. Even Jiang Chanchou, who didn't have a match that day, had shown up at the competition grounds. Ning Chenin and Lan Maqian both appeared solemn. It was hard to read their expressions. Tang San had heard from the Grand Elder that morning that Lan Maqian was said to be under more pressure, especially since the sky-splitting demon emperor was still alive. Meanwhile, Ning Chenin was under relatively less strain. According to the rules, the loser's bracket would compete first, followed by the winners. Ning Chen and Lan Maqian take to the skies. The celestial fox demon emperor's voice echoed from the mountainside, officially announcing the start of the second round of the finals. The atmosphere instantly turned tense as all eyes focused on the married couple. This kind of match was especially cruel. Who wouldn't want to become an emperor? Ascension meant at least 1,000 years of extended life, a position at the top of the world, and the ability to bring prosperity to one's clan. But they were also husband and wife. Could they really go all out in such a match for the sake of their own races? What could be crueler than 2 spouses forced to battle each other? 0. At the start of the finals, they had been the biggest winners, or so they had thought. Now they were the ones suffering the most. Ning Chenin stood up first. He had actually gone to see Lan Maqian the previous day but hadn't succeeded. She had locked herself away in the sky-splitting palace. Ning Chenin's desperate effort to defeat Jinangua had indeed affected the relationship between the Behemoth and Golden Mammoth clans. Whether Lan Maqian couldn't face him or simply wanted to avoid distractions before this critical match, no one knew. Lan Maqian stood up, her expression blank. Without glancing at Ning Chenin, she simply turned to walk toward the battlefield, preparing to take flight. Wait a moment. Ning Chenin suddenly called out.
Lan Mo Kian Pauset?
What is it? 0. Her voice was low and she didn't turn around. Ning Chenin didn't answer her. Instead, he turned to face the Ancestral Court's Council Mountain, bowed deeply and said, Your Majesty Celestial Fox, this match is between me and my wife. I cannot bring myself to fight her. I concede. 0. His words caused an uproar throughout the arena. Lan Maqian turned around sharply, staring at Ning Chenin in disbelief. But after he said the words I concede, it was as though he had shed a heavy burden. The solemn weight on his face vanished, replaced by his usual warm, gentle smile. Looking at his wife, he said softly, You think that I fought so hard against Jinangua because I wanted to become an emperor at all costs, didn't you? That I was willing to do anything to reach that goal. But that's not it. For me, the responsibilities I bear are already heavy enough. Deep down, I know I'm not truly qualified to be an emperor. I gave everything I had to defeat your cousin not because I wanted to prove myself to others, but to prove to you that you didn't marry the wrong man. That your husband can do more than defend his own life. He can protect you with strength too. But today you are my opponent. How could I raise my hand against you? Even though our marriage was arranged, my feelings are real. I love you. I don't want some battle for the throne to turn into the reason we can't even share a bed anymore. 9. Lan Maqian stared at him in a daze, her eyes quickly turning red. Ning Chenin opened his arms toward her. Come on, give me a hug. Ever since your match with that sunflower girl, you haven't even looked at me. 0. Ugh, you're so annoying. Look at all the people watching. Lan Maqian's face turned bright red, but she still walked up and threw herself into her husband's arms. With Ning Qianen conceding, his journey in the finals came to an end. With 2 losses, he was eliminated. 0. Of the 6 contestants in the finals, only 5 remained. Lan Maqian would move on to challenge Zhang Chanchou in the following day's match. The battle between husband and wife had ended in the most unexpected and harmonious way. Though the spectators had been shocked, seeing the couple's affection left them feeling deeply moved. This was what it meant to be true partners. An unshakable bond, even in the face of a possibility to reach the supreme position in this world. What could be more beautiful than that? 0. And so the couple quarrel drew to a close with harmony. And next would be the much-anticipated clash in the winner's bracket. Jin Miaolan, Su and Yu prepare for combat. The celestial fox demon emperor's voice echoed again. Even for a contest as important as the battle for the throne, no one would object to a contestant conceding. After all, conceding at this point wasn't simply a sign of weakness. It was most certainly the result of careful consideration of many factors. Between the two, Ning Qianen had always been seen as the more likely to advance. But Lan Maqian, as the final representative of the Behemoth clan, would never have voluntarily surrendered. The pressure on her was simply too great. That Ning Qianen had chosen to concede in such a situation only made it more precious and noble. Su and Yu and Tang San both stepped out from their respective rest areas. Su and Yu looked at Tang San with a gentle smile. Brother Jin, I have a proposal. I was actually going to bring this up yesterday, but I was afraid people would accuse us of colluding. So let's just talk about it right here and now. 0. Tang San was taken aback. What kind of proposal, 0? Su and Yu smiled and said, if you're willing to sell me the Holy Dragon Spear, or at least let me study it for 3 months once the tournament ends, then I'll concede this match. 0. Tang San looked at him in surprise. You what? You'll concede? 0. They both knew how important this match was. A match in the winner's bracket was not the same as one in the loser's bracket. The top 3 contestants would ultimately earn emperor seats. Mei Gongzi, with the highest points and a win the day before, had practically secured one of them. Tang San and Su and Yu, on the other hand, still faced a slim yet non-negligible possibility of elimination. Whoever won today's match would advance to the winner's final and practically guarantee themselves a place in the top 3. The only remaining question would be their final ranking. Whoever lost would be kicked down. In that sense, this match was as close to a direct contest for an emperor seat as it got. It was supposed to be one of the fiercest battles of the entire competition. Yet in such a critical moment, Su and Yu offered to concede. It meant he had absolute confidence that he could win his way through the loser's bracket and ultimately face Tang San again, and even face Mei Gongzi. Was the Holy Dragon Spear worth exchanging for a guaranteed victory? In the eyes of most people, it absolutely was. It was practically the same as buying an emperor's title. If Tang San won this match, he wouldn't need to face Zhang Chanchou. Su and Yu would instead face the winner of Zhang Chanchou versus Lan Maqian in the loser's bracket. Tang San, on the other hand, would advance directly to challenge Mei Gongzi. Brother Su Yu. Tang San looked at him in disbelief. This man's confidence was incredible. Was he not worried about getting eliminated in the loser's bracket? 0. Su and Yu smiled. Time waits for no one. Brother Jin better decide quickly. 0. Tang San thought for a moment and then said, all right, I'll lend it to you for 3 months, but I won't sell it, at least for now. I still need the Holy Dragon Spear myself. 0. Deal. That's a promise. 0. The two of them raised their hands and clapped palms in agreement. Only then did Su and Yu turn toward Council Mountain and bow deeply. I concede this match. 0. And with that, Jin Miaolan, leader of the Blue Gold Tree clan, advanced further in the winner's bracket, securing alongside Mei Gongzi a guaranteed spot in the top 3 and the right to claim an emperor's seat. But Zhang Chanchou's expression had already darkened. Even if she managed to defeat Lan Maqian next, what good would it do? Su and Yu was a mountain she couldn't possibly climb. She had originally hoped that Su and Yu would defeat Jin Miaolan. allowing her to face the ladder instead for a chance at the top 3. But Su Enyu's sudden concession had crushed that hope before it could take root. Tang San, meanwhile, was also pondering on what was happening. He glanced at Su Enyu and couldn't help but silently admire him. This man truly deserved to be chosen as the leader of the dragon race. In both strength and character, he was exceptional. By conceding today, Su Enyu had placed all the pressure on himself, but that also showed how confident he was. He believed without doubt that he could still earn a seat in the end, and if he defeated Tang San in a rematch, then challenged and beat Mei Gongzi, he'd even have a shot at the first place. And he would have done all that while earning Tang San's immense gratitude and goodwill. After all, helping him become one of the new emperors was a tremendous help. With that bond, future collaborations between the Blue Gold Tree Clan and Crystal City, whether it be related to the Puppet Dragon Core, Holy Energy, or Life Energy, would happen naturally. Tang San becoming an emperor would benefit Crystal City far more than Jiang Chancho ever could. They were both nymphs, yes, but Tang San's clan was neutral, and his life energy was something everyone valued. Su Enyu had chosen the perfect moment to show favor, and now he had gained public recognition of his friendship with Tang San. This was as good as announcing to the world the alliance between the dragon race and the Blue Gold Tree Clan. His concession had brought him a massive victory on other fronts. He seriously won again? Jin Miaolin won again? Is this the power of wealth? 0. This time the crowd didn't erupt in confusion, just cheers. Thunderous cheers. Before this tournament began, who could have imagined that the clan leader of the Blue Gold Tree Clan, top candidate for the most bullied nymph clan in history, would make it all the way to the end? Who could have expected him to become one of the 3 prospective emperors and even being personally ushered into the top 3 by the dragon race leadership? 0. The spectators didn't care about political interests or strategic alliances. They cared about results. And the results spoke for themselves. This was the true underdog's rise to glory. Relying on the power of money and intellect, Jin Miaolin had truly made it into the final top 3. Even if he only ranked 3rd, in the end it didn't matter. Securing a seat was enough to drive the audience into a frenzy. Jin Miaolin had unknowingly become their idol. The one who turned the impossible into reality, the mundane into the miraculous. Su Enyu looked at Tang San with a smile and said, "Brother Jin, do I get a hug too?" As he spoke, he opened his arms toward Tang San. Tang San twitched inwardly, but then laughed and gave him a solid hug. "Brother Su, thank you. I will never forget this favor." 0. Su Enyu gave him a thumbs up. "You earned your place as an emperor by your own strength. Everyone's seen how you got here step by step. Honestly, I'm not even sure I could have beaten you if we fought for real. But there's still another chance. I'll fight my way back up from the losers bracket. And when we meet for the final rankings, I won't concede again." 0. Su Enyu's 2 concessions had undeniably helped Tang San secure his spot among the top 3. By this point, everyone could see just how close the Blue Gold Tree Clan and the dragon race had become. Tang San smiled lightly. "No problem. When the time comes, let's give it our all. Win or lose, it won't matter anymore. As for the matters you want me to help you with, I'll be honored to do so. I believe you'll become the first Holy Dragon Demon Emperor in the future." 0. "Ha ha ha. I'll take those words as a blessing," Su Enyu said with a hearty laugh. Today's set of matches had been the shortest since the tournament began. Both had ended with quick concessions. Not even the preparation phase had occurred, let alone actual fighting. In the winner's bracket, only Mei Gongzi and Tang San remained. The losers bracket now held Su Enyu, Jiang Chuncho, and Lan Maqian. Tomorrow would feature the championship match of the winner's bracket, and the winner of that battle would rest while waiting for the final challenger. In other words, whether it was Tang San or Mei Gongzi who won tomorrow, that person would be guaranteed at least 2nd place. When Tang San walked out of the competition grounds, he was instantly swarmed by the jubilant elders of the Blue Gold Tree Clan. An emperor. Their own clan leader had secured an emperor's seat. What could be more joyous than that? 0. A surge of life energy erupted from the dozens of elders as they tossed Tang San into the air over and over, making him seem as if he was taking a bath in life energy. Jin Miaosan shouted herself hoarse. As a group that had long been considered mere background characters at best and props at worst, None of them had ever imagined they would one day regain their place among the clans with a representative in the Ancestral Court's council. For the Blue Gold Tree clan, this was the greatest event since the fall of the Ancestral Tree. Their previous emperor had been short-lived and hadn't brought the clan much glory, as he had vanished not long after attaining his seat. 1. Even if Tang San didn't compete in another match, it didn't matter. He had already won. Neither Radiant Dragon King Suan Yu nor Mei Gongzi seemed likely to claim 2 emperors' worth of fortune, which meant that he had every chance to become an emperor. Suan Yu's concession undoubtedly involved other political considerations, like compromises between the 2 countries and balancing power among the various clans. After all, the Solstice Empire had to secure at least 1 seat. They couldn't possibly allow the Empyrean Dominion to take all 3, especially after the fall of the Adamant Nymph Emperor. Initially, they had even aimed for more. But now it was clear that compared to the demon clans, the Solstice Empire was somewhat lacking. Trying to claim another seat would be extremely difficult. However, securing one was absolutely essential. Otherwise, the Solstice Empire would never accept the outcome. Sure, now that the Crystal Demon Emperor had fallen, the Empyrean Dominion no longer had anyone capable of suppressing the Sunborn Earthshade pair. But even so, 6 Nymph Emperors could not possibly fight 11 Demon Emperors. It was just not possible. Ultimately, ensuring Jean Miaolin earned a seat became the only mutually acceptable outcome. What remained now was to see whether Zhang Chanchou could shake Suan Yu in a second challenge. That fight would undoubtedly be more intense than their first. Ning Chenin hadn't conceded in vain either. His chances of earning a seat had already been slim. He could not beat Suan Yu, and it was anybody's guess whether he could beat Jean Miaolin. By conceding now, he had not only earned his wife's heartfelt approval, but also mended the slight rift between the Golden Mammoth clan and the Behemoth clan. The Behemoth clan, once so full of confidence, had ultimately fallen a step behind. Had Jean Miaolin lost to Suan Yu, Lan Maqin might still have had a glimmer of hope by defeating Zhang Chanchou. But with 2 towering opponents in front of her, her chances now looked equally slim. By the time Tang San returned to the White Tiger Grand Hotel, his clothes were torn in several places. The elders had simply been too enthusiastic. And under those circumstances, there had been no stopping them. After all, this was indeed a great day for the Blue Gold Tree clan. Suan Yu's concession was actually really good news for Tang San. It saved him the trouble of a difficult battle. In fact, Tang San had been fully prepared to duke it out with Suan Yu today. He couldn't afford to lose that match. Only by winning could he ensure that Suan Yu could not possibly get to Mei Gongzi. Thus, unbeknownst to Suan Yu, Tang San had been determined to win today. His unexpected concession allowed Tang San to keep more of his trump cards hidden. Tomorrow he would face Mei Gongzi, while Lan Maqin would face Zhang Chanchou. At this point in the tournament, the losers bracket had reached a boiling point. One wrong move could mean elimination. What? Suan Yu conceded. 0. At the top floor of the White Tiger Hotel, Mei Gongzi was utterly stunned upon hearing the news. Yes, he conceded. And I have to say it was a very smart move, said Luo Qingzhu. The dragon race has clearly been courting the Blue Gold Tree clan. This is the second time Suan Yu has conceded to Jean Miaolin, and this time it ensures Jean Miaolin will get a place in the top 3. It's obvious the dragons believe his ascension will be beneficial to them. As for Suan Yu, he's confident that he can just win his way out of the losers bracket and challenge him again. Little Mei, you'll be facing Jean Miaolin tomorrow. You must go all out to secure the top position. But I suspect your final match will be against Suan Yu. 0. Mei Gongzi frowned deeply. What troubled her most was the possibility that if she lost to Suan Yu in the end, he wouldn't just win the battle for the throne, but also become the champion of the matchmaking tournament. That meant he would have first pick of a spouse. And before the tournament had even begun, he had already made his interest in her known. If he proposed to marry her afterward, it would be a huge problem. 1. No matter what, she had to defeat him. Suan Yu is hard to deal with. That light sprite's energy is overwhelming. Are you confident? Luo Qingzhu had clearly seen through her concerns. Mei Gongzi said, If I must, I'll ignite my bloodline power again. Even if I have to expose my phoenix bloodline, I must defeat him. Mom, you know, I cannot afford to lose. 0. Luo Qingzhu sighed, opened her mouth as if to speak, but in the end said nothing. She had wanted to ask, still no contact with Tang San? He seems to have vanished without a trace. Mei Gongzi said, "Don't worry. After consuming the blue gold fruit, my life force has increased. If I burn my bloodline power again, the effects should be even better. Besides, that strike I used last time wasn't actually my full strength. I can do better." 0. Luo Qingzhu asked, "Should we buy another blue gold fruit from Jin Miaolin? Just in case. It's 5,000. We can afford that." 0. Mei Gongzi gave a wry smile. "We're opponents now. How can I go to him? And besides, he's clearly, well, you know, I don't want to owe him too much." 0. Luo Qingzhu said, "Let's wait until after your match tomorrow. If the final match ends up being you against Su and Yu, then there'll be no conflict of interest anymore, and we can make the purchase. It's best not to expose your Phoenix bloodline before you become an emperor. Otherwise, even if you earn the seat, it won't be secure. 3 emperors in one race would shake the entire ancestral court." 0. Mei Hongxi nodded lightly. Of course she understood what her second mother meant. But for her, the more pressing concern was not being forced to marry Su and Yu. If pushed to the brink, she would never allow herself to lose, no matter the cost. 6. Outsiders thought she should be elated for having secured an emperor seat, but in truth, the pressure on her now was far heavier than it had been before the tournament began. The atmosphere within the ancestral court had shifted alongside the changing landscape of the battle for the throne. With 2 seats already claimed, only one remained. Would it go to Su and Yu, Zhang Chunqiu, or Lan Maqian? Speculation abounded among the public, but there was no doubt that Su and Yu had the strongest support. And under these interesting circumstances, the third round of the finals began. When Tang San arrived at the competition grounds, he realized he wasn't the last to arrive. Mei Gongzi had not yet come. Since Ning Chenen had been eliminated, he no longer needed to be there. Only 3 of the 6 thrones were currently occupied. Tang San greeted Su and Yu before going to his seat. He wore a gentle smile, looking completely at ease. To others, this was perfectly natural. He had already secured a place among the winners. For a mere wastrel from the Blue Gold Tree clan, that alone was a monumental success. What could be more satisfying? In contrast, the atmosphere surrounding the 2 remaining female contestants was far heavier. They couldn't afford another loss. Mei Gongzi arrived last and headed directly to her seat. According to the schedule, the losers bracket would begin first, followed by the winners bracket final. With the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's announcement, Lan Maqian and Zhang Chunqiu rose into the air. Their battle was even fiercer than expected. Back in the round-robin stage, Zhang Chunqiu had defeated Lan Maqian, and having learned from that loss, Lan Maqian went all out from the beginning. She had already ignited her bloodline power once against Tang San, and she had been in quite a sorry state. It seemed that she had recovered since, likely with the help of a blue gold fruit. Now she burned her bloodline power again and launched a frenzied assault. As it turned out, she wasn't the only one with a blue gold fruit. Zhang Chunqiu also used the undying golden body again. But even so, she struggled to withstand the onslaught. For the first 15 minutes, she was completely suppressed, unable to fight back. If not for her undying golden body, she would have surely lost. But as it turned out, it wasn't for no reason that this divine item's defenses were said to be impregnable even against the entire collective of emperors. Even after exhausting her entire bloodline power and using her berserk state, Lan Maqian still failed to break through. Her momentum began to wane. In the end, Zhang Chunqiu also lost the protection of the undying golden body, due to lack of energy. But by then, Lan Maqian was too weak to even raise her arm. The sky-splitting demon emperor intervened and declared her surrender, ending the match. 0. Zhang Chunqiu narrowly claimed victory and kept her chance at the top 3 alive. Winners bracket final. Mei Gongzi vs Jin Miaolin. Both participants take to the skies. 0. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's voice rang out from Council Mountain. The audience erupted with excitement. It was the winner's final, Jin Miaolin vs Mei Gongzi at last. 0. The crowd was most eager to see whether Mei Gongzi's mysterious red sword could crack Jin Miaolin's dark turtle shield. Tang San and Mei Gongzi walked out of their pavilions together. Mei Gongzi turned to look at him and nodded slightly. She had never imagined she would face this man in the winners' final. If someone had told her this before the battle for the throne began, she would have laughed in disbelief, but now here he was standing in front of her. In his match against Lan Maqian, he had won with overwhelming defense and endurance. That made Mei Gongzi take him very seriously. She had experienced Lan Maqian's strength firsthand after all, and while she had complete confidence in her Azura sword, her true trump card was reserved for her duel against Su Yu. This time not only did she have to win, but she had to do it without revealing too much. When the match began, she planned to test just how strong this dark turtle shield really was. After all the battles she had fought, Mei Gongzi felt more in sync with her Azura sword than ever before. The heaven-splitting strike she had used earlier hadn't been in vain. It had deepened the resonance between her and the blade. The moment she had torn through the shroud of heaven, the sword intent inside her became clearer, and its beckoning call to the Azura sword amplified. 0. She was confident in her strength, but she also knew that she and Tang San would eventually face more than just the contestants in this tournament. They would have to contend with all the emperors. To transcend this realm, they would need to seize more resources. The resistance would be immense. City Lord Mei. A voice sounded beside her, pulling her from her thoughts. It was Jean Miaolin. Congratulations, he continued with a smile before turning to face Council Mountain. Your Majesty Celestial Fox, I concede. 0. He what? He conceded. 0. During the round-robin stage, Jean Miaolin had withdrawn after securing his top position. But that was that and this was this. 0. Still, upon reflection, people understood. For someone like him, securing a place in the top 3 was more than enough. Meanwhile, everyone had witnessed Mei Gongzi's terrifying strength. Her Azura sword was unmatched. Even the undying golden body could barely measure up to it, and it was even on the losing side. 0. But still, this was the winner's final. Didn't he at least want to test whether his dark turtle shield could withstand the Azura sword? 0.
Even Mei Gongzi was stunned.
She hadn't expected Tang San to concede at this stage. Emperor seats aside, higher placement offered a real advantage, like choosing the timing of one's ascension and claiming the realm's fortune first. Tang San's decision meant giving up a guaranteed top 2 finish and dropping into the losers bracket. Clan leader Jean, do you confirm your decision to concede? The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor asked again. Tang San nodded without hesitation. Yes, I concede. 0. Very well. City Lord Mei wins and takes the top spot of the winner's bracket. She will face the champion of the losers bracket to determine the final victor of the battle for the throne. 0. Even Su Yu was taken aback by Tang San's concession and couldn't help but laugh. He yelled from his throne, Brother Jean, you really know how to go easy on the ladies. 0. Tang San smirked and retorted, What does it have to do with the ladies? I was just impressed by your gesture yesterday, so I came to the losers bracket to keep you company. You'd better do your best tomorrow. 0. Su Yu laughed out loud. Looks like I'll finally get to spar with you for real. Just you wait. 1. Tang San gave him a thumbs up. This guy really was confident. 0. He then heard Mei Gongzi's voice. Mei Gongzi had finally recovered from the surprise. With Tang San's concession, she now had only one more match before the tournament ended. She was in the perfect position, guaranteed at least second place, and she could rest while waiting for the final challenger. Tang San smiled. Yesterday, those who conceded got a hug. Do I get that honor today? 1. Mei Gongzi's face turned cold. Don't overthink it. 0. With those words, she walked off. The day's matches were over. Tang San scratched his nose awkwardly, then returned to the platform. Su Yu stepped up beside him and chuckled. That icy peacock isn't so easy to win over, eh? 0. Tang San gave him a sidelong glance. Brother Su, if I end up facing you in the losers bracket final, I'll be giving it my all. I still want a shot at proposing to the goddess. 1. Ha ha ha. Alright, it's a fair competition then. 0. Don't think you've won yet, a cold voice said from somewhere not far away. Jiang Chancho, still weak from battle, was glaring daggers at Su Yu. Tomorrow there would be no winners bracket matches, only one in the losers bracket. Jiang Chuncho would face Suan Yu in a fight that would decide the final seat. Suan Yu shrugged. See you tomorrow then. If I beat you once, I can do it again. 0. Humph. Jiang Chuncho snorted and left quickly. The battle the next day would decide the top 3. Once those were confirmed, the emperor seats would be finalized. The last 2 matches were only for ranking, but to Tang San, the final rankings were the most important part. With things as they stood, if Mei Gongzi won the championship, there was no way she would choose him. And if she didn't choose a spouse, the matchmaking tournament would have been for nothing. The ancestral court, especially the celestial fox demon emperor, would keep pressuring her. Only if Tang San became champion could he take control of his fate. That meant defeating Suan Yu and then overcoming Mei Gongzi's Azura Sword. 1. For Tang San, the real battle lay in those final 2 matches. The 4th round of the finals began the next day. Mei Gongzi did not attend the match, but Tang San did. He watched closely, although he was fairly sure of the outcome. Jiang Chuncho fought in the same way Lan Maqian had, unleashing everything from the start. She ignited her bloodline power and pushed her blazing sun domain to the limit, turning the sky crimson. It felt as if she was the sun itself as she launched her ferocious attacks. But Suan Yu revealed his true form for the first time. 100-meter-long radiant dragon took to the skies. 0. As it turned out, the blazing sun domain was not a pure fire domain, but instead a fire-light combination. Suan Yu used his light sprite to gather all light energy around, and due to the light sprite's supremacy over the element, she simply stripped every bit of it from the blazing sun domain. This reduced Jiang Chuncho's power by quite a lot, and from there it was just a matter of time until she lost. 4. No number of undying golden bodies could have helped her with that. Suan Yu could fight in this state for days on end, so all she could do was get exhausted until she gave up. And thus, the final 3 were confirmed. Only 2 matches remained: the losers bracket final and the championship. These would determine the final ranking of the 3 emperors. The entire ancestral court was on the edge of their seats. Who would emerge as the ultimate victor? 1. Would the final battles end with more concessions or with dazzling displays of power? 0. The showdown of the 3 prospective emperors was about to begin. The battle for the throne had now reached its final stage. With the 3 emperor seats officially determined, it meant that very soon, the ancestral court would likely welcome 3 new emperors. Holding one of these seats was no simple matter. It signified direct support from the ancestral court, help in cultivation, access to resources, and even aid in overcoming the tribulation on the path to ascension. Most importantly, it represented the ancestral court's formal recognition. No one could ascend without it. To do so would be to oppose the entire ancestral court and all of its emperors, and the only outcome could be one's demise. The fall of that human emperor of old was solid proof. This had been one of the most crucial rules since the founding of the ancestral court. From the very day it was established, the emperors who created it swore an oath. Any power that stood outside the collective would be treated as an enemy and destroyed immediately. Anyone that wished to ascend had to become part of the collective. Now Tang San, Mei Gongzi, and Suan Yu had earned that qualification. Although they had not yet officially ascended, they were no longer referred to as Great Demon Kings or whatever other title. They were now the 3 Crown Princes. Their status was second only to the reigning emperors. The Blue Gold Tree Clan, the Peacock Demon Clan, and the Dragon Race would each gain a new emperor. This was a momentous development for all 3, one that would reshape the entire continent. The Peacock Demon Clan and the Blue Gold Tree Clan would regain their esteemed status. As for the Dragon Race, the day Suan Yu officially became an emperor would also mark the rise of a new Dragon Lord and Lord of Crystal City. Nothing else mattered. Suan Yu had long been preparing for this, laying foundations even before becoming an emperor. And in his view, the most important move was forging strong ties with Jean Miaolin. In recent days, everything the Blue Gold Tree Clan had done, well, more accurately, everything Jean Miaolin had done, had drawn the attention of the continent's most powerful. Never mind their wealth. By this point, nobody could rob a single coin from them. The important part was their life energy that could transform the mundane into the miraculous, grant long life, and even bring back people from the brink of death. 0. Artifacts that others couldn't use. A scourge dragon no one could control. All of them had become his assets. What could be more shocking than that? Word had begun to spread among top powerhouses that Jean Miarolan might be a junior ancestral tree himself. If he ascended, he might even recreate the glory of the ancestral tree. Among the common folk, the term amethystan warrior was a joke, a sign of popularity. But in the eyes of the strong, Jean Miarolan had not earned his emperor seat with money alone. At the core of his success was his incredible vision and tactical prowess, as well as that peerless life energy. It was this energy that allowed him to power divine artifacts and subdue all rivals. Even a domineering divine item like the Misfortune Pearl had rebounded against its owner because of it. The holy energy he had shown was of incredible rarity, and as for the creation-destruction combination that he had displayed together with the Scourge Dragon, that was something that had never appeared in the entire history. No one could yet predict how far those powers might develop in the future. The greatest advantage of Tang San's high-level life energy was that it could even benefit emperors directly. For the aging emperors, that meant an extension of their lifespan. Thus, Tang San won the unanimous approval of the council. Inside the ancestral court, there were already discussions about the proceedings. If Jean Miarolan encountered difficulty during his tribulation, the council would offer direct aid to ensure his successful ascension. Furthermore, they published the official details of the Blue Gold Tree clan's neutrality, namely that clan members at the 10th order or above would be sent to the main cities and other large cities to cultivate and gather life energy. The moment this was announced, the Blue Gold Tree clan stood at the center of a storm, and Jean Miaolin's reputation received yet another boost. For most spectators, the final ranking matches between the three crown princes no longer felt as important. After all, they had already secured their future. Who came first or last seemed trivial. Save for exceptional circumstances, all three would ascend eventually. And while Mei Gongzi and Suan Yu had little direct impact on others' interests, Jean Miaolan was different. Even Tang San hadn't anticipated how quickly his reputation would soar within the ancestral court. In fact, it was now rivaling that of the emperors themselves. As a result, even the Blue Gold Tree clan's elders were being showered with attention. At the White Tiger Hotel, the clan had received a flood of invitations from powerful clans and city representatives, all requesting to meet with representatives of the Blue Gold Tree clan. Some even submitted formal pledges, all with the same message. They welcomed Blue Gold Tree envoys and would guarantee their safety, sparing no effort in supporting them as they cultivated life energy in their cities. Now, when Blue Gold Tree clan elders walked the streets, they held their heads high. Their clan was no longer a bunch of weaklings pushed around by others, but a growing power, just like the Celestial Fox clan, in fact. It went to show that while combat power was certainly a good thing to have, even those without it could become well respected. Tang San, however, didn't concern himself with any of this. After the matches ended, he returned straight to his room and resumed closed-door cultivation. His mindset remained stable, unaffected by whatever was going on around him. Even the Blue Gold Tree elders believed there was no need for him to compete further. Why risk anything? Whether it was Mei Gongzi's fearsome Azura sword or Suan Yu's radiant dragon might, both were dangerous adversaries. A third-place finish was more than enough. Because the top three had already been determined, when the next day's matches arrived, the tournament's popularity had clearly declined. Many speculated the competition might end that very day. Perhaps someone would concede, or perhaps both matches would be resolved through negotiation. There might not be any more fights at all. And so, under this atmosphere, Tang San, Mei Gongzi, and Suan Yu once again arrived at the battlefield. The pavilions in the competitors' rest area had been outright demolished, and the 6 original thrones had been replaced by 3. The seats themselves had become even more resplendent. They were made of a golden metal and decorated with precious stones that glimmered under the sunlight. As the 3 contestants approached their seats, the crowd erupted into thunderous cheers. 1. Crown Princess! Crown Princess! Crown Princess! 0. After 2 shocking deaths, the ancestral court was about to welcome new emperors again. That fact would have a profound impact on the entire continent, but especially the dragon race, the Peacock Demon clan, and the Blue Gold Tree clan. Mei Gongzi sat in the first seat, Tang San in the second, Suan Yu in the third. These were the rankings, at least for now. Mei Gongzi didn't have a match, but she was still here. After all, her final opponent would be the victor between Tang San, and Su and Yu. Today's match still held plenty of suspense. Su and Yu had conceded to Tang San twice already. Would he do it again in this third encounter? Speculation was rampant. Most believed he wouldn't concede again. The reason was simple. Su and Yu was now a prospective emperor and a top contender for the position of Lord of Crystal City, the largest city on the Demon Continent and the Dragon Clan's stronghold. For him, there was no better way to solidify his status than to win the championship of the battle for the throne. If he did, not only would his path to becoming an emperor be absolutely guaranteed, but claiming the position of city lord ahead of time would become entirely possible. Many spectators believed that if the crown princes were to face the weakest of the current emperors, the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor, in a one-on-one battle, both Mei Gongzi and Su and Yu could hold their own. Only Jin Miaolin might be at a disadvantage. The Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor had barely made it to emperorhood, and would have failed without the help of the Crystal Demon Emperor. Compared to him, both Su and Yu and Mei Gongzi had a much deeper foundation and much better talent. It was clear that the very moment they ascended, their strength would exceed that of the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor. Therefore, the final championship match would most likely be between Mei Gongzi and Su and Yu. As for whether they would fight it out or come to a quiet agreement, that remained to be seen. The audience, of course, hoped to see an intense, dramatic match. After all, the more unexpected the outcome, the more entertaining it was. Yesterday, the final top three of the battle for the throne were confirmed. As such, they have officially become crown princes. This is the first time in the history of the ancestral court that three such prospective emperors have emerged at once. On behalf of all emperors of the ancestral court, I extend congratulations to the three of you and look forward to the day of your ascension. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's voice rang out from Council Mountain, drawing thunderous cheers from the crowd. At that moment, all of the emperors stood beside the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, signifying their collective recognition of the three new crown princes. Becoming a crown prince essentially meant being granted the opportunity to one day stand as their equal. The Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor stood at the far end of the line, barely able to hide his excitement. Even now, he could hardly believe that his daughter was about to become an emperor. At the very least, she would be the runner-up in the battle for the throne. This was something he would never have dared to imagine. This sense of pride only caused his sense of guilt to deepen. Mei Gongzi's excellence had not come from his own nurturing. Instead, it was the Peacock Great Demon King who had raised her. Even now, his daughter hadn't acknowledged him, and Su Qin still refused to see him. Yet even with all of that said, he was still an incredibly proud father. His daughter was about to become an emperor. Such a feat was extremely rare in the history of the ancestral court. A father and daughter both holding imperial rank. No one in the dragon race, the phoenix race, or the behemoth clan had ever achieved that. But he would. Well, the phoenix race would. Once she ascended, the phoenix race would boast three emperors. What could be more glorious? With that thought, the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor's excitement reached its peak. He stole a glance at the undying Demon Emperor who stood at the center of the imperial ranks. While his expression seemed calm, there was a rare warmth in his gaze. The Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor snickered. Clearly, his granduncle's mood was just as joyful as his. Mei Gongzi wouldn't need to reveal her phoenix bloodline unless absolutely pressed. Until she officially ascended, remaining under the Peacock Demon banner would be perfectly acceptable, and even after that, she could keep being the Peacock Demon Emperor. But in times of need, she would undoubtedly join them, and the three Phoenix Emperors, plus their ally the White Tiger, would be the strongest force in the Empyrean Dominion, bar none. Even the nymph clans couldn't compare. At that moment, Tang San, Mei Gongzi, and Su and Yu rose and bowed toward Council Mountain, expressing their gratitude for the ancestral court's recognition. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor smiled and said, "Let us move on to the final rankings, then. You may choose to maintain the current standings, negotiate among yourselves to adjust the rankings, or continue the battle for the throne if you so desire. We will not interfere, so the choice is entirely up to you." The arena fell silent. Indeed, with the three emperor seats confirmed, was there any need to continue? Many in the audience wondered the same. Mei Gongzi's gaze instantly turned to Tang San and Su and Yu. Based on the current standings, she naturally preferred to keep things as they were. She was already ranked first. But Suan Yu looked toward Tang San and gave a small shake of his head. Brother Jin, I'm sorry. I can't concede this time. I must fight for my clan's honor. Tang San smiled and nodded. I understand. Mei Gongzi frowned slightly but said nothing. Suan Yu's intent was clear. As the third-ranked contestant, he still wanted to fight, meaning he wasn't just targeting Jin Miaolin's second place. Once he won that fight, he would once more challenge her for the top spot. Suan Yu then turned toward Council Mountain and said loudly, Your Majesties, I choose to continue in contest for a higher ranking. Please grant me this opportunity. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor nodded. Clearly, this was within his expectation. That is your right. Very well. Today we will hold the final match of the losers bracket. Jin Miaolin, Crown Prince of the Blue Gold Tree Clan, versus Suan Yu, Crown Prince of the Radiant Dragon Clan. The match will be judged by His Majesty the Sunborn Nymph Emperor and His Majesty the Undying Demon Emperor. Without a doubt, this would be the most heavily officiated match of the entire tournament. Two pinnacle-level emperors would personally oversee the battle, ensuring the safety of both competitors. Now that they were crown princes, their status was vastly different from even a few days before. They could not be allowed to suffer serious harm. People like them were not easily replaced. Tang San and Suan Yu exchanged a glance and ascended into the air at the same time. They locked eyes mid-flight, both smiling. Suan Yu's smile showed respect and admiration but also an ironclad will to prove himself, while Tang San's eyes held a deeper meaning. They bowed toward the Undying Demon Emperor and the Sunborn Nymph Emperor, who floated high above. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor said, Prepare yourselves. As he spoke, he gave Tang San a look of encouragement, as if urging him to give it his all. Tang San grinned and nodded. He raised his right hand into the air, and the Holy Dragon Spear appeared. His left hand summoned the Black Tortoise Shield, and just like before, he assumed the classic spear and shield stance. On the other side, Suan Yu gripped his dragon spear as well, while the light sprite behind him unfurled her 6 wings. Behind Tang San, the projection of the ancestral tree emerged, and a rich surge of life energy burst forth. Meanwhile, Suan Yu's light sprite absorbed vast amounts of light energy from the surroundings and poured it into him. The energy both exuded was harmonious and pure, soothing to all races but the ones attuned to darkness. The skies seemed to brighten under their combined presence. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor glanced at both of them, then waved his hand. Begin! With that command, the two referees rose higher into the air, each monitoring one side of the match. At last, the true battle between Tang San and Suan Yu began. This would be their third encounter but first genuine confrontation in the entire tournament. Both competitors were fully focused and utterly intent on grasping victory. Suan Yu thrust his dragon spear into the air, and a resounding dragon roar echoed across the sky. His expression remained utterly focused. There was not the slightest hint of carelessness despite facing Tang San. As the spear surged forward, its tip left behind a brilliant golden trail that became a piercing beam flying straight at Tang San, accompanied by an overwhelming eruption of radiant light energy. Tang San raised the Black Tortoise Shield in his left hand, covering his entire body. The swirling whirlpool-like dim light once again appeared on the shield's surface. The golden spear light was instantly devoured upon contact, so cleanly that it didn't even sound like an impact at all. At the same time, Tang San's Holy Dragon Spear shot forward, a blast of orange golden spear light flying straight towards Suan Yu. Suan Yu chuckled. I told you already, your holy energy nourishes my light energy. It seems you still don't trust me fully, Brother Jin. As he spoke, a golden hexagon-shaped pattern that looked like an array lit up beneath his feet. Light energy ignited in an instant and clashed directly with Tang San's holy energy. Immediately, the light aura surrounding Suan Yu surged upward like oil meeting fire, becoming even more intense and blazing. Radiant light. Suan Yu raised his dragon spear to the heavens, summoning a pillar of mighty brilliance that descended upon Tang San. And you, Brother Su, are trying to kill a tree with light. I feel is a rather futile endeavor. Tang San's calm voice echoed back. Behind him, the projection of the ancestral tree flared to life, and under the cover of the holy light, the aura of life grew even more dense and vibrant. Seeing this, Suan Yu was pleased rather than surprised. He had anticipated this outcome, and it only confirmed that his investment in Tang San had been the right choice. Both had been probing each other's strength, and now it was clear. Their attributes weren't in conflict but complementary. So much so that the other's very presence seemed to enhance their powers. As expected, we should be allies rather than opponents. It seems we'll have to settle this with brute force, Suan-Yu said with a relaxed smile. After their brief exchange, it became apparent that neither could suppress the other through elemental affinity alone. Suan-Yu, it seemed, had anticipated this. A thick aura of light enveloped his entire body, but even though he had just stated that brute force was the solution, he remained in human form rather than returning to his dragon form. The light gathered rapidly around him, forming a dazzling suit of armor consisting entirely of condensed light energy. The radiant dragon armor glowed with a pure white hue, only interrupted from place to place by shimmering golden patterns. Even his dragon spear transformed accordingly. Behind him, his light sprite grew larger and spread her arms toward him in an embrace. A moment later, the sprite vanished, replaced by 6 glowing wings that unfurled from Suan-Yu's back, transforming him into a 6-winged warrior. The sheer power of his aura had been causing the air around him to hum, and as the wings spread open, that hum rose to a piercing roar. A massive, solid-looking dragon projection took form behind him. No, it was not just a bloodline projection, but something far more tangible. The radiant dragon swooped down and positioned itself beneath him, lifting him up with its head. Gasps rippled through the audience. This ability was something Suan-Yu had never revealed. Not even against Zhang Chancho had he unleashed his full strength. Yet now, facing Jean Miaolin, he revealed his ultimate form. Was this a show of respect? As she sat on her throne watching them, Mei Gongzi's expression grew somber. She could feel the staggering strength radiating from Suan-Yu. Though he was not yet an emperor, once bonded with his dragon mount, his power already reached that level. The radiance of light energy no longer leaked from him. It had fully integrated into his being. Could she really defeat someone? Suan-Yu didn't attack right away. After completing his transformation, he addressed Tang San in a calm tone. Brother Jean, this is my true trump card. The 6-winged radiant dragon knight form. You see, when I was young I was born into the puppet dragon corps. But I didn't stay there long, and even the elders of the Legion probably no longer remember me. It was Her Majesty the Crystal Demon Emperor who took me from there and personally trained me, helping me get to where I am today. I am a mutant dragon, but the mutation in my bloodline isn't related to its energy attribute. It's just that I was born with 2 hearts. The differing rhythms of those 2 hearts nearly killed me. It was the Crystal Demon Emperor who used her immense power to stabilize me and help me gain control over them. Then she forged one of the hearts into a divine item. My personal life-bound divine item, the Heart of Radiance. Through it, I can summon another version of myself. I call this the Radiant Twin Dragon. So what you're about to face is essentially 2 of me, 2 that can merge into 1. After this match, if we get the chance, perhaps you could bring out the Scourge Dragon, and we could face each other as fellow Dragon Knights. That would be truly exciting. But for now, though your defenses are strong, the energy at your disposal isn't on par with mine, let alone if there are 2 of me. So I would advise you to surrender. I don't want to hurt you. Suan-Yu's voice was sincere, and loud enough for every powerhouse present to hear. From atop Council Mountain, the Tenebrous Demon Emperor's expression shifted. Even before ascending, Suan-Yu had already earned the full backing of the dragon race, and could challenge an existing emperor. Now that he had become a crown prince, he no longer needed to hold back. His choice to reveal this secret wasn't only to pressure Tang San, it was a warning to the Tenebrous Demon Emperor. He was announcing to all the powerhouses present, and to the dragon race itself, exactly how deep his foundations ran. With 2 hearts as one, once he reached the emperor level, Suan-Yu would be fearsomely strong. In fact, there was a high chance he would surpass the Tenebrous Demon Emperor himself the very moment he ascended. Then there was one other thing: his full power was actually suppressed by the planar laws due to his mutation being too powerful. This was one of the key reasons he was so determined to win the championship. Only as an emperor would he be able to somewhat ignore the suppression of the plane's will and unleash his full power, and only with assistance from others would he be able to ascend. And if a single Suan-Yu was already this powerful, What kind of strength would Tu possess? Watching this unfold, even the sun-born nymph emperor felt a pang of regret. He regretted not insisting that Jean Miaolin be allowed to use the Scourge Dragon. With its support, perhaps he would have stood a chance. But now, armed only with 2 divine items, and with the Holy Dragon Spear offering no significant edge, how could he possibly contend with this? What Mei Gongzi had sensed, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor and Undying Demon Emperor could sense as well. Suan Yu had already reached a level where he could contend with the lower-level emperors. Once he ascended, he would undoubtedly become a pillar of the dragon race, and even as a fresh emperor, he would be among the top. The dragon race truly lived up to its title as the strongest race on the continent. With their full support behind him, Suan Yu's rise to prominence was well earned. The real problem was, if Suan Yu ascended, would there still be 3 emperor seats to go around? Would Jean Miaolin, the last of the 3, still have enough of the continent's fortune to ascend as well? This was a situation none of the emperors had foreseen. Thank you for the kind words, Brother Su, but I would like to proceed with the fight. Both Suan Yu and the 2 emperors presiding as referees were surprised by the absolute calmness of Tang San's voice. His tone held no fluctuation, and his face looked as serene and steady as always. He stood there with the black tortoise shield in his left hand and the holy dragon spear in his right, smiling faintly as he looked toward Suan Yu. Suan Yu blinked a few times but then replied with a smile, "Very well. Then come." Tang San didn't rush to attack, however. Instead he continued, "Brother Su, since you have a mount, I suppose I'll summon mine too. You don't mind, do you?" Suan Yu froze for a second. A mount? The Scourge Dragon was banned. Did Jean Miaolin have another one? According to tournament rules, living beings weren't allowed to assist in battle. The Scourge Dragon had been allowed because it had been purchased in the auction, and even then it had been a point of contention. The light sprite was technically not alive, since it didn't have a true physical body, while Suan Yu's mount was actually a manifestation of himself and didn't fall under these restrictions. Tang San smiled faintly, turned to face Council Mountain and bowed deeply. "This is the grace of the ancestral court."
Come forte, cristalline.
A melodious dragon cry rang out at once. In that instant, nearly all the emperors present, as well as Suan Yu, felt their hair stand on end. This dragon's cry felt engraved into their very bones, as if it had always lived inside them. It stirred something ancient, something unforgettable. Suan Yu's eyes widened in an instant. He stared at Tang San in utter disbelief, his face frozen with shock. Even the Undying Demon Emperor and the Sunborn Nymph Emperor sharply turned their gazes toward Tang San, both of them visibly shaken. A crystalline radiance began to rise silently behind Tang San. His aura surged wildly, no longer purely life energy, but now infused with something more. Something ethereal and transcendent. He seemed to become slightly incorporeal, as if his body were fading into another dimension. Behind him, the shiny form of a dragon emerged, covered in shimmering scales like translucent crystal, which gave off a pale blue glow. Under the illumination of Suan Yu's radiant aura, this dragon sparkled magnificently. A crystal dragon, the Crystal Demon Emperor. In that moment, nearly all the emperors burst from the resting chambers atop Council Mountain. They looked up at the sky, and even the celestial fox demon emperor couldn't help but gape in disbelief. Tang San spoke with solemn reverence. "As your majesties well know, before my city lord evaluation, I was granted the honor to commune with the celestial pillar of Her Majesty the Crystal Demon Emperor, and I received its legacy. Once more, I have to express my deepest gratitude to Her Majesty for her acknowledgement. Today, I summon the Crystal Dragon to fight alongside me." As he finished, he gave a slight bow to the shimmering dragon behind him. The semi-illusory crystal dragon dodged the salute with a graceful dip, then flew beneath Tang San, catching him with its head. Crystalline blue scales began to rise from its snout, flowing upward to cover Tang San's body. In an instant, he was clad in full-body dragon scale armor. Tang San's aura skyrocketed. While still not as overpowering as Suan Yu's, it now possessed a dreamlike, intangible quality that, in a way, made it even more shocking. We're talking trump cards now? Please. Who doesn't have one? Even before the battle for the throne began, Tang San had known he couldn't win the championship relying solely on those few divine artifacts. But he couldn't reveal his multiple bloodlines either, especially the transcendent ones, without drawing suspicion from the emperors. So, he had prepared several layers of contingencies. Among them, the most crucial was crystalline. The Crystal Demon Emperor's greatest ability had been replication. The ability to replicate 3 bloodline abilities simultaneously, and even adjust them to counter specific opponents. By passing off his own multiple bloodlines as her legacy, Tang San could reasonably use some of his powers without raising alarm. Even better, since her bloodline imprint had a mind of her own, Tang San was actually able to summon her under a concrete form to assist him in battle, just as she had told him a while back. He had to admit, she had been right. Communing with her celestial pillar had been an amazing idea. It had given him a powerful trump card that he could use out in the open with no consequences. And now, facing the overwhelming might of Suan Yu, it was time to reveal this trump card. The entire audience was stunned. Even the emperors were shaken to their core. As for Mei Gongzi, she had already leapt to her feet and was staring at the scene unfolding in the sky, her heart in disarray. Whether it was Suan Yu with his 2 hearts, or Jean Miaolan, blessed by the crystal dragon, were these truly foes she could defeat? These two had saved their most unfathomable trump cards until this very moment. Suan Yu took a deep breath, staring at the crystal dragon beneath Tang San with bitterness on his face. Nonetheless, he bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, I never would have imagined that Brother Jean would receive your recognition. I had originally planned, once I became Lord of Crystal City, to report to the Ancestral Court and attempt to commune with your Majesty's celestial pillar. I didn't expect Brother Jean to beat me to it." Tang San shook his head and replied with a gentle smile, "I was just fortunate. It is my honor." In his mind, though, he heard Crystalline's voice ring out. "I swear, Dad, you might be a good fighter and whatnot, but you're entirely missing out on an acting career." Indeed, only Tang San and Crystalline truly understood the truth. The emperors, Suan Yu, the spectators, even Mei Gongzi, everyone was entirely in the dark about how he had actually come across this particular ability. Everything had been an act from beginning to end. "Behave, child." Tang San chuckled internally. Then slowly he raised the holy dragon spear. Behind him, the phantom of the ancestral tree still shimmered, surging with vast life energy. But clad in the crystal scale armor, his aura was no longer simply that of life energy. "Let's go, Brother Su. Let us fight with all we've got," Tang San said solemnly. Suan Yu's expression turned grim. He spun his dragon spear in his hand, pointing it at Tang San. "Show me your worst, Brother Jean." Their dragon mounts surged forward almost in unison. The 2 dragon knights lunged at each other. In the sky, a powerful dual roar of dragons rang out. The emperors watched the clash unfold. For some reason, each of them felt an inexplicable sensation stirring deep inside. It felt as if a new era had just begun. Suan Yu's strength was no surprise. They had all expected it. The Dragon Race's Council of Elders would not have supported him over the tenebrous demon emperor otherwise. But no one had anticipated how deeply the Blue Gold Tree Clan leader, Jean Miaolan, had hidden his power. They all knew he had received the Crystal Demon Emperor's legacy, yet he had never revealed exactly what that legacy was. And in this tournament, he had won match after match with nothing but divine artifacts bought in the auction. Had he not been prohibited from using the Scourge Dragon, then with both that dragon and the Crystal Dragon helping him, who among his peers could have stood against him? Clearly, in spite of his claims that he was here just to make up the numbers, from the very beginning, his goal had been an emperor's seat and the championship. Now, even the Sunborn Nymph Emperor regarded Tang San with complex emotions. This junior of his clearly wouldn't be as easy to control as he had initially seemed. He had hidden his cards far too well. And after today's battle, regardless of who won, Jean Miaolin's rise could no longer be stopped. Together with Suan Yu, and perhaps only Suan Yu, they would become the brightest stars of the Ancestral Court's future. Compared to them, even Mei Gongzi with her powerful sword seemed lacking in depth. The 2 massive dragons clashed in midair. Suan Yu's radiant power condensed entirely into his spear, which streaked like a lightning bolt toward Tang San. Meanwhile, the holy dragon spear in Tang San's hands appeared faint, almost ethereal. At the same moment, his crystal dragon mount began to shift in a strange and subtle way. The originally translucent, pale blue suddenly turned into a golden red. A blazing sun abruptly appeared behind Tang San, and the searing power of pure yang energy enveloped his entire body. The holy dragon spear in his hand instantly took on a reddish hue. With unmatched intensity, it clashed against Su Yu's spear. A crisp clang rang out as the two massive dragons crossed paths. The air around them distorted violently. A great sun of flames erupted in the sky the next moment and engulfed Su Yu. Around the blazing sun, the faint outlines of petals emerged. The sunborn flower was a power possessed not by the scorching sunflower clan, but solely by the sunborn nymph emperor. So Jin Miaolin's dragon mount was not just a mere imitation. It was truly a manifestation of the crystal demon emperor, one that had her replication abilities. The golden red crystal dragon flew off into the distance, and the red gradually faded into pure gold. The massive sunborn flower floated behind Tang San, and supported by abundant life energy, it had completely altered his elemental signature. Was this even possible? If not for knowing the crystal demon emperor's replication ability, the sunborn nymph emperor might have wondered whether he had somehow fathered an illegitimate son without his own knowledge. But this was somehow even more unbelievable. Jin Miaolin had actually inherited the crystal demon emperor's replication ability? If that was truly the case, another top-tier powerhouse rivaling the crystal demon emperor might have just emerged. Though it seemed he was only using a single replication ability and could not summon 3 clones at the same time, that alone was enough to astonish all onlookers. How was this still the weak blue-gold tree clan? The radiant twin dragon emerged from the sunfire blast cloaked in golden radiance, seemingly unchanged on the surface. Yet Su Yu's gaze was filled with shock. He really inherited Her Majesty's power. The crystal dragon wheeled around. Tang San raised his holy dragon spear once more, and the sunborn flower behind him burst with radiant light. A titanic pillar of pure yang flame blasted forth, threatening to incinerate all that stood in its path. Su Yu quickly raised his spear high. A platinum light shield spread out before him. Thanks to his dual heart physiology, his light attribute bloodline power surged with astonishing strength. Though the shield shook violently under the sunfire's assault, it held firm. A resonant dragon cry rang out from the radiant twin dragon. In the next instant, the light surrounding Su Yu erupted. He pointed his spear at Tang San, and the entire sky echoed with countless dragon roars. Dragons formed from concentrated light energy emerged from every direction and hurtled toward Tang San. In that moment, Tang San faced what felt like an entire legion of radiant dragons. Tang San raised the black tortoise shield. In the next breath, the crystal dragon beneath him changed from gold to blue, the hue of its scales rippling like the still water of a pond disturbed by a pebble thrown into it. Then blue turned to black, not the darkness of night, but the deep black of endless water. A somewhat transparent giant turtle appeared around him and his mount, enclosing them in its vast shell. One after another, the light dragons crashed into the black turtle's shell and vanished without a trace. Black tortoise shield. Endless water. It seemed as if the crystal dragon had replicated the powers of the endless nymph emperor. Although the light dragon domain was extremely powerful, Tang San's defense was flawless. Their clash now made even the emperors watching frown. This confrontation had clearly reached their level. The sky above them blazed with elemental splendor. The audience stared, utterly stunned. They had never expected the most exhilarating match of the battle for the throne to be now of all times. The emperors, too, all showed various expressions that betrayed their complicated feelings, especially when they looked at Tang San, the crystal demon emperor's inheritance. They still clearly remembered the moment Tang San had activated all of the celestial pillars. But they had assumed he'd only obtained a limited inheritance based on his immense life energy, not her most powerful ability. And yet here he was, using the crystal demon emperor's replication ability. Moreover, he could even summon her original form to fight alongside him. At this point it was obvious. Whether it was Tang San or Su Yu, once either of them ascended to emperorhood, they would be no ordinary emperor. Would there even be enough space for a third emperor? This made the battle unfolding before them all the more critical. In the double elimination finals, Mei Gongzi had already secured second place. So whoever lost this match would place third. But if the top two consumed too much of the plane's power when ascending, the third might not even become an emperor at all. The three supposedly secure finalist spots had suddenly become rather insecure. This Jean Mirolin. He sure hit himself well. The two dragons circled and clashed in the sky. With the endless nymph emperor's water control, Tang San was displaying extraordinary might. The black tortoise shield was a water attribute treasure first and foremost, and the endless nymph emperor's power greatly amplified its effects. The black shield expanded and shrank constantly, forming massive black whirlpools in midair that devoured Su Yu's attacks again and again. No matter how fierce Su Yu's assault, Tang San stood unmoved. Even the endless nymph emperor itself, watching from below, questioned whether it could replicate such performance. The shield's power made it envious, but it knew all too well that it could not activate the shield even if it tried. To avoid revealing his own bloodline secrets, Tang San was fully replicating the endless nymph emperor's ability. This wasn't just an imitation, it was true replication, thanks to Crystalline having absorbed the endless nymph emperor's bloodline power before. Only by doing this could he justify his powers in the eyes of the watching emperors. Before becoming an emperor, he could not afford to reveal his transcendent bloodlines. Su Yu was growing more alarmed as the fight wore on. He had never imagined that water could stifle his power so completely. But the swirling vortices in the sky constantly devoured his light energy attacks. His cultivation had already touched upon the very laws of nature, the domain of emperors, and with his dual hearts and light sprite companion, he should have had no peer in this tournament. That was why he had dared to concede twice before. As long as a chance remained to climb the ranks, he believed he could seize it. But now, before the most unlikely of opponents, he had kicked an iron plate. Well, more like a turtle's shell. Tang San appeared to be doing very little, only using his shield to generate vortices in different directions. But not only were these vortices filled with surging water energy, they also exerted a tremendous suction force. Even with his strength, Su Yu was being pulled from side to side. Each pull caused momentary disorientation, disrupting his rhythm. Tang San remained utterly calm. With the black tortoise shield, he repeatedly blocked Su Yu's attacks. Occasionally, he thrust his holy dragon spear, but each strike seemed only to stimulate Su Yu's light power, as if helping him grow stronger for a moment.